happy to be part of this conversation. We have a very packed agenda today with a variety of keynote speeches, panel discussions, exhibitions. We shall be hearing from a wide range of experts within the fields of technology, microfinance, economic development. We shall be exploring the latest trends and innovations in technology, microfinance, and economic development. So I encourage you all to participate fully, ask questions to the speakers, because this is a very unique opportunity for all of us to learn from each other and also pick some insights from one of the brightest minds within these fields of technology and microfinance. So before I get started, I would like to give a few mentions to a few people that are behind this event. We have our sponsors. We have Vermonti and Software Limited. We have Eclectics, Identity Pass by Prembly, Core INC, Access to Finance Rwanda. Those are our sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to acknowledge the organizers of the event, AMIR, a group that represents microfinance institutions in Rwanda. It aims to promote the growth of the microfinance sector in Rwanda through various initiatives, including advocacy, research and development, responsible finance, performance monitoring, and capacity building. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we have SNG Events. SNG Events is specialized in organizing conferences, seminars, trade shows, summits, and exhibitions for all industries. So Amir, in partnership with SNG Events, together with our sponsors, are the masterminds behind all this. So we thank them for making this possible. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to join me as I welcome our very first speaker of today, that is the Executive Director of AMIR, Jackson Kwikiriza, who will share his opening remarks. Can you please give him a round of applause?
Honorable Governor, National Bank of Rwanda, Honorable Representative of the Bank of Uganda, present, Chairman, Board of Directors, the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda, our members present, CEOs, managers, and chairpersons of MFIs and SACCOs present, sponsors and exhibitors present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Mwaramutse. Habari. Bonjour. On behalf of the Board of Directors of AMIL, the management team of AMIL, the entire microfinance sector, and on my own behalf, we welcome you to the Microfinance Technology Summit 2023. We want to thank the government of Rwanda for the technical and material support in the organization of this summit. Special appreciation goes to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, National Bank of Rwanda, Rwanda Convention Bureau, Rwanda Cooperative Agents, among others, that have been supportive from day one. I also want to thank our partners, without mentioning names, our sponsors, speakers, that accepted to come and share their experience with over 300 delegates present here and those that will be following online. Special thanks goes to SNG Events that we have already mentioned here that have been instrumental in the organization of this event, but most importantly, AMIR team. Thank you all for making this summit happen. The Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda, AMIR, is an umbrella organization bringing together 458 licensed institutions, microfinance institutions in Rwanda. It started back in 2007 with 32 founding members. The association was created mainly to deal with issues affecting microfinance sector through advocacy, sector professionalization, through capacity building, coaching, and technical assistance, communication and information sharing, research and performance management, promoting responsible and inclusive finance, as well as organizing learning events like this Tech Summit. For the last 16 years, AMIR's existence, a lot has changed in the microfinance sector, ranging from policy, laws and regulations, sector professionalization, institutional strengthening, and digitization. Special appreciation, once again, goes to the government of Rwanda, most preferably Microfinance, Ministry of ICT and Innovation, and National Bank of Rwanda for supporting AMIR to achieve its target. In line with AMIR's mandate, Microfinance Technology Summit was organized in order to create and strengthen bonds between microfinance institutions and technology companies that own great technology solutions to enhance customer experience and improve service delivery. That said, in an endeavor to build and enhance more inclusive and responsible microfinance sector, AMIR organized Microfinance Technology Summit in partnership with SNG events to strengthen the microfinance sector digitally while adapting itself to technology changes, increased connectivity, and technological innovations that allow a range of development benefits, increased dividends for the members of these institutions, which could boost growth, expand opportunities, and improve microfinance service delivery and further development. To all our members, MFIs and circles present, and sector practitioners from different parts of the globe, this is the right time to network and share best practices for future performance improvement. Honorable Governor, ladies and gentlemen, without taking much of your time, I wish you a fruitful discussion and a pleasant stay in Kigali, Rwanda. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Asanteni sana. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you so much to the Executive Director of AMIR for his welcoming speech. So ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to move forward with our program today. We are going to have another welcoming speech from our guest of honor, and that is Governor John Rwangombwa, the Governor of National Bank of Rwanda. So may we all please give him a round of applause as he walks up to the stage.
The Executive Director of the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda, CEOs of financial institutions here present, other representatives of the financial sector and other institutions here, distinguished guests, good morning. It is my great pleasure to speak with you today on microfinance and digitization, two areas that are paramount to the development of any country's financial system and to the socio-economic development as a whole. I thus want to express my sincere appreciation to the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda and all the partners that have worked with AMIR for organizing this pertinent summit. I also thank you for inviting a wide range of financial sector participants from within our country and from across the continent and outside the continent. To our brothers and sisters from outside Rwanda, thank you for gracing us with your presence as we discuss and deliberate on the summit's topics with the collective objective of supporting the progress of our continent and our countries in particular. Distinguished participants, the socio-economic development of an individual is greatly influenced by access to financial services, be it savings, credit, insurance, transfer of funds, or even merely holding an account, because most often account holding is a precedent of the other services. Unfortunately, many individuals still lack this opportunity, yet it may be a determinant to breaking destitute circumstances where one may have been born into. The good news is that there has been some good progress around the world in terms of the number of people owning accounts. Globally, 71% adults hold an account at a bank, credit union, MFI, or mobile money service provider, a 25% growth from a decade ago. Unfortunately, for Sub-Saharan Africa, we have just achieved an account ownership level that the world attained in 2011 at 55% today. We certainly need to do better as the continent's industry players in providing opportunities to people with problem-solving ideas or business potentials that are limited by lack of access to finance. Distinguished guests, allow me to use Rwanda's experience to demonstrate the importance of microfinance institutions and technology in enhancing financial inclusion and poverty reduction and economic growth in general. When we conducted our first FinScope survey in 2008 to assess the country's landscape regarding access to financial services, data revealed that the overall rate of financial inclusion was at 48% of the adult population. But of these, only 21% were formally included. It was revealed that one of the main reasons behind this low level of financial inclusion was lack of access to financial institutions, with a few bank branches and MFIs in the country located far from where the population lived. To address this bottleneck, the government of Rwanda decided to organize and support the population in creating their own savings and credit cooperatives, famously known as Umurenge Sacco, to extend financial services to the unreached, especially those in the rural areas. Umurenge is one of our administrative units at second tier from down, and we have 400 of 16 of Umurenges or sectors across the country. So this initiative was a turning point in the supply of financial services in our country, as by 2011, there were 416 fully licensed Umurenge Saccos serving in each administrative sector, as I have just said. As a result, more than 90% of adults could have access to a formal financial institution within 5 kilometers. In the next FinScope survey in 2012, fruits of the Umurenge Sacco strategy revealed themselves, with the formal financial inclusion having doubled to 42% from 21% I had said earlier in 2008. MFIs, or specifically the Umurenge Sacco, were the main drivers of this change. Distinguished participants, as demonstrated by the numbers above, MFIs had a significant impact on financial inclusion. However, despite the access numbers doubling, at 42% inclusion, we were far from where we wanted to be. The government therefore decided to take advantage of the emerging technologies in payment systems to create an environment that would enhance delivery of financial services to the population. It is in this spirit that the first mobile money product was launched in 2010. And in 2013, the Smart Rwanda Master Plan 2013-2018 was launched to establish a framework for the introduction of necessary mobile and digital financial products infrastructure to the market. The National Data Revolution Policy, which was then launched in 2017, focused on building data analytics capabilities. These national strategies, as well as the Rwanda Payment Strategy of 2018-2024, push the use of digital financial services, with government taking the lead in enabling citizens to apply and pay for government services online. Utility payments, transactions between businesses and individuals, person-to-person transfers were all digitized. This digital drive has had a significant impact on the access to formal financial services. The latest FinScope survey of 2020 showed that formal financial inclusion had increased from 42% in 2012 to 77% in 2020. The survey showed that between 2016 and 2020, the adults using formal non-bank financial services increased by 3.6 million people, of which 2.1 million, or about 60%, were driven by mobile money services. Given the extensive digital disruption that has occurred since the outbreak of COVID-19, with deeper innovations in digital financial services to support business continuity and to reach a wider range of the population, I believe that the 2024 FinScope survey will show a much bigger number of the population accessing formal financial services. Ladies and gentlemen, as demonstrated by the Rwandan experience I have just cited, both MFIs and digitization of financial services can have a significant impact on financial inclusion and by extension on poverty eradication and the socio-economic development of our population in general. I haven't put in the numbers on the socio-economic development, but when you look at our statistics between 2006 and 2012, our poverty was reduced by 12%, and I don't have any doubt that this increase in financial inclusion had a role in that reduction in poverty. So, however, despite these impressive progressions, the microfinance sector in Rwanda was left behind in the financial sector's digital drive. The automation level is still low, with only 23% of microfinance institutions fully automated, which creates a lot of inefficiencies. Knowing that the biggest number of the unautomated MFIs were the Umurenge SACCOs, the government decided to support the SACCOs again by financing and spearheading the full automation of all the 416 SACCOs. So far, we have 68 of these SACCOs already fully automated, and the remaining are expected to be onboarded before the end of 2023. With this automation, all SACCOs will be then consolidated at district level to form bigger and more effective and sustainable financial institutions that will be engines to drive rural development. The other key development in the automation of financial services is the upgrade of the Rwanda Integrated Payments Processing System, commonly called RIPS, in 2022 by our National Bank of Rwanda. The system now operates 24/7 and has included all the automated MFIs as direct participants for the first time. They used to be indirect, they used to operate through the commercial banks. Today, clients of these MFIs can now make direct digital transfers to clients of other banks. The digitized Umurenge SACCOs will soon be onboarded to RIPS as well, and with these financial transactions are made quicker, or rather instant, efficient, cheaper and very convenient, positively impacting the turnaround of economic activities. Another game changer is the Rwanda National Digital Payment System, an interoperability switch linking all digital channels for retail payments that is being implemented with the support of the government of Rwanda. Distinguished participants, having said a lot about the potential impact that automation will have on MFIs and financial institutions in general, we have to recognize that there are other challenges that hinder the effectiveness of MFIs, not only in Rwanda, but across the developing world, that need our attention. So these include, but are not limited to, having less diversified funding sources whereby their main funders are banks, which leads to high cost of lending to their clients. Number two, given the MFIs venture into areas that banks deem too risky, their assets quality are always compromised. Number three, there are issues to do with the poor corporate governance, as well as the last but not really least and not really concluding or the list of issues, there is low levels of financial literacy among the clients of these MFIs. So I'm looking forward to reading the proposed solutions to these problems and others I have not mentioned among the resolutions of this forum. Distinguished participants, as this workshop's main agenda focuses on digital transformation as a solution to the effectiveness of MFIs, let us, along the same line, think of solutions to potential cyber threats that would ensue. This is not a new phenomenon in the tech world, so we should take advantage of the fact that digitization and automation is still low in MFIs and be prudent from the beginning to avoid possible unpleasant consequences as we dive deep into automation. After all, prevention is better than cure. Using Rwanda as an example again, in recognition of these risks posed by the growing need for ICT in the development of the financial sector and the economy in general, the National Bank of Rwanda is implementing a Financial Security Operations Center, an IT security umbrella that will provide a centralized cyber threats information sharing within the financial sector. This will supplement the individual financial institutions' cyber security frameworks and infrastructure and will be supported by a wider National Security Operations Center. I need to emphasize that despite all that we do as regulators or the government in providing a supportive environment for either the MFIs or digitization, we need to bear in mind that a bigger portion of the needed changes or solutions will be driven by you, the service providers. We are, however, always eager to get feedback about how better we can facilitate you as industry players in serving our populations. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by once again thanking the organizers, facilitators, and speakers for the hard work that has gone into preparing for this event. I also join the Executive Director to thank the sponsors and the lead organizer of this summit. Let's hope that the summit ends with participants who are itching to explore the application of ideas learned during several discussions in this summit. I once again thank and welcome our participants from across the world for joining us in this summit. Collaboration between our industries will make mountains seem like more hills, especially with how more often than not we face the same challenges across the developing economies. Moving forward, we hope that we are not only able to collaborate in the exchange of ideas, but also on policies and technologies as we strive for better experiences in cross-country business interactions. Echoing the late Henry Ford, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. I wish you enlightening and practical deliberations for the next 2 days. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor, for your wonderful welcoming remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, may we please give him another warm round of applause. All right, so it looks like we're off to a great start. We are now going to proceed with the next activity for today, and that is a group photo session. A group photo of all delegates and the guest of honor. Yeah, so we will have the photo somewhere around here. I will request all delegates and the guest of honor to move forward for this photo, and immediately after that, all delegates and the guest of honor will have to move to the room next door to have a small tour at the exhibition area. There's a very exciting exhibition at the hall next door showcasing the latest innovations and trends of Microsoft and technology. So that will be a very good opportunity for our delegates and guests, and also all participants for this event to interact with exhibitors at the exhibition area. So may we have the delegates and the guests of honor get up and move forward at the designated photo area and have this photo.
As the MC already indicated, first allow me to extend the sincere and heartfelt apologies of the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, who's been unable to attend despite having looked forward to being a part of some of the very pertinent and important conversations going to take place in this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda, the microfinance institutions were not ready. At least the majority of them were not. But there's a silver lining to this dark cloud. There is an opportunity today. The opportunity to utilize technology to service their customers at significantly lower per unit costs, and they have embarked on this journey. So it's now possible to use both internet-enabled and feature phones and handheld devices to make payments, save, borrow, and conduct other financial transactions digitally. As early as May 2020, the global management consulting company, McKinsey, predicted that the rapid migration to digital technologies driven by the COVID-19 pandemic would continue far into the future. Indeed, when one goes through the global fintechs database of 2021, there's an increased access to mobile money accounts and the usage of digital payments during the pandemic and after. So going forward, this trend provides some kind of pathway into the digital economy, which in turn opens up additional economic opportunities. And for us, the central bankers, provides visibility on the monetary transmission mechanism through the economies. What are these opportunities? Is that through the use of digital platforms and technology, there has been a greater harnessing of income-generating activities, access to new markets, and increasing the generation of significant amounts of data that now are becoming a source of information on which new developments and services are being provided. Today, microfinance tries to bridge the gap between financial service providers and the unbanked population, benefiting from technology, innovation, and data analytics that drive knowledge. And as the theme of this summit indicates, shaping the future of microfinance technology digitally speaks to the transformative nature and potential of technology to the business of microfinance, with knock-on positive externalities to the financial inclusion, deepening and widening agenda of the various countries in this region. Digital technologies and the associated innovations are spreading rapidly, manifesting themselves into just about all realms of human activity and life. The new channels of engagement, the expanded opportunities, and increasing efficiencies for individuals, businesses, and governments. And these are just a few of the pluses associated with technology. Fortunately, the microfinance sector is aware and awake to these. They are fast adapting to technology in order to help them effectively serve the financially excluded who have always formed the core of their customer base, introduced customer-centric approaches and services, reduced the operational risks, supported new business models, and built partnerships and collaborations with various stakeholders, as well as enhancing the customer experience. So while financial companies, institutions have always innovated their businesses through the application of specific technologies, the emergence of fintechs, or to use the words of Jack Ma, tech fins, technology companies that provide financial services, has changed the provision of financial services using technology. And the main tool, at least for the region, has been the mobile phone, whose access and availability is a bit ubiquitous. The fintechs use big data, and they have facilitated advances in artificial intelligence, computing power, cryptography, as well as expanded and widened the reach of the internet. As a result of the combination of these technologies, new applications have emerged encompassing payments, financing, asset management, insurance, and advisory services, making fintech companies or enterprises real competitors and alternatives to the traditional financial intermediaries. In Uganda, we've prioritized financial system development by promoting financial inclusion and advancing payment systems. With the National Payments Systems Act of 2020, whose one of the major achievements was the splitting of the MNOs, the mobile network operators, from their mobile money service provision, the central bank is now pushing financial services to the last mile by supporting technology-driven financial services and innovation by fintechs. We have finalized plans for a national payment switch, and at this point, we also have in place a regulatory sandbox where new ideas and concepts around payments and around other financial services can be tried, tested, piloted before being rolled out. Ladies and gentlemen, even as we come and talk about technology within the microfinance space, as a central bank and a financial sector regulator, it is inevitable that I shall revert back to the default setting of a central banker, which is being risk-averse. The unbridled adoption, and I believe the governor of the central BNR spoke about this, the unbridled adoption and reliance on technology, especially by the microfinance sector, which is not as sophisticated as the conventional, traditional financial intermediaries, if not handled properly, might put off their main customer base and reverse the gains we have so far achieved on financial inclusion. And the way this would happen is that if in the adoption of technology by the microfinance subsector, we do not focus or keep our eyes on the ball with regards to security and integrity of these platforms to the customers, which then will lead to an unintended consequence. So as we discuss the how and the what of technology vis-a-vis shaping the future of microfinance, There is a whole range of risks and threats that we must and shall consider. These range from digital infrastructure vulnerabilities, data protection and privacy issues, susceptibility to different fraud typologies, and unfortunately for us, addressing them is not an option. They must be addressed. So, the long and short of it is that as we discuss technology, shaping microfinance, that conversation must of necessity include the risks that we are introducing within the wider financial system. And I hope that during the course of the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, that there shall be conversations around the security and the risks within this system, so that while we can benefit from the advantages of technology, we minimize the unintended consequences or the externalities of that adoption. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for the privilege of giving opening remarks today, and I wish you all fruitful deliberations on how technology and associated digitization shall shape the microfinance sector in Africa and contribute to its future development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tumubwene Twaine-Manzi, for your wonderful keynote speech. Okay, so moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to check in with you though. Are you all okay? Are we good? Are we enjoying the event so far? Is everything okay? Tumeze neza? Abanyamuryango ba Amir murahari? Meze neza, muzambura amaboko mbamenye turi bangahe hano. Nice. Mutubabare turi gukoresha icyongereza cyinshi, ariko I hope ko turi kumvikana and everything is okay. Est-ce qu'il y a des gens qui parlent le français ici? Il y a des francophones ici? Vous êtes bien? Okay, raise your arms. J'espère que vous êtes bien. Je wanaongea Kiswahili? Wa Kenya, wa Tanzania, mpo? Aha, great, awesome. So baadaye tukiwa tuna speeches na discussions, mnaweza mkauliza maswali kwenye lugha yote mnaotaka kutumia, right? So, okay, I hope we are great. So we're going to move forward. Please do not get bored. Do not, if you need some more coffee, drinks, tea, you can move to the next room and serve yourself. We also have some ushers everywhere, and yeah, stay energized. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving forward with our planned activities. We are going to move forward to a very exciting panel discussion. A panel discussion that is, all right, so we're now going to move forward to the next activity, and that is a panel discussion. A panel discussion that is quite exciting and that is going to change the face of microfinance. It's microfinance in the cloud, basically, and we're going to be exploring the opportunities and challenges that come with moving microfinance to the cloud. And I'm excited to be the moderator for this exciting discussion. We have an esteemed panel of experts with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Idechi Amucheazi, the Chief FinTech and Innovation Officer from Fast Credit. May we please give him a round of applause as he walks up to the stage. And next up in our list of panelists, we have Mr. Frank Mola, the MD and Head Sub-Sahara Africa at BPC. Let's clap for him, please. Then we have Mr. Gbena Omolokun, the MD and VFD, Sorry. The VFD of Microfinance Bank Nigeria. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Itho Mupanbwa, the CEO of Money Mart Finance from Zimbabwe. May we please clap for her as she walks up to the stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, each of our panelists here will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table, and I'm sure we could learn something from them, and I hope we could also use the insights that they will share with us to understand the potential of microfinance in the cloud. So without further ado, let's get started with this conversation. I will be the moderator. Thank you so much for being with us here. Question, I would like to know, what do you understand how do you understand digital transformation in microfinance? And are there any consequences if the sector does not go digital? So I think I'll start with you, sir. It's a general question for all of you. Then later on, we'll break into two individual questions.
Thank you very much for having me. I mean, I listened to the Honorable Governor speaking earlier. I listened to Dr. Twine speaking. We call him Dr. Twine. Sometimes the name is quite long to pronounce. And the understanding that I had on digital transformation when I was coming to Rwanda and listening to some of the speakers that came before, I came and realized that it cannot just be a standard or general definition, because if you think of digital transformation, there are so many facets that involves it. But what is important, number one, a lot of us look at Africa as a monolithic continent. When you come into Africa, not realizing there are blocks, there are regions, and there are countries with their own nuisances and with different digital appetites. So every time I think of digital transformation, the one thing that I make sure I have in mind is context. Context is key in everything you think around digital transformation. And if you look at Rwanda as an example, along the journey, you can see the regulation of the day, or the regulator of the day, has taken steps ahead to make sure that they've eased and made the environment easier for digital transformation. Now, when it comes down to MFIs, I think the challenges that were mentioned, in a way, when it comes to digital transformation, is what now the conversation that we need to start having as far as Rwanda is concerned. So my definition of digital transformation would come down to a Rwanda context, would come down to understanding the MFIs, would come down to understand what are the different types of MFIs that we have in Rwanda, and I've been made to understand there are like almost 3 different types. And once I get into that level of detail, I'll be able to sit back and say, you know what, guys, from a Rwanda perspective and from this context perspective, this is how easy we can define digital transformation from a Rwanda context. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Frank Mola. All right, so next up, we have Mr. Benga Omolokun. What is your take on this?
Thank you. Hello? Yes. Okay, all right. So thank you very much. So I think, so my context will be more from Nigeria and West Africa in general. First of all, let's look at what microfinance banks typically look like, right? Historically, and in some cases even today. A number of them are very manual. They still use manual records, paper bureaus to capture details of their customers. There's a lot of physicality in terms of the relationship and the interaction between the bank and the customers. But in today's world, we're talking about Instagram, TikTok, we're talking about social media. Even the guys that are serviced by the microfinance banks are already exposed to this technology and this media. They're already interacting. WhatsApp, I don't know if WhatsApp is very prevalent here, but in Nigeria and West Africa, it's almost now a formal means of communication. The people that are served by microfinance institutions are not exclusive or excluded from the general urban areas or the general people in the urban centers, right? We're talking about their family, their friends, even all the businesses that they interact with, who are in the more financial included markets, right? We can use that word. So digital transformation for me is microfinance banks rethinking how they actually interact with the customers, right? If today I use paper and biro, these guys are already on TikTok, they're already on Instagram, they're already on WhatsApp. How do we now start to rethink about how we can interact with them using these means that they're already used to, right, which are all digitally enabled? And I would try to note that there's a difference between digital services, which I would assume is the output of digital transformation, and digitized services, right? So an example of digitized services, someone comes to the microfinance institution, you give them a form, they fill the form, and someone then files that form. That's what happens manually today. A digitized services, rather than telling the person to fill the form on a piece of paper, you give them tablets and you say, fill the form, right? That's not real digitization when you think about it. The kind of questions you should ask from a digitization perspective is, why should he really fill the form, right? Are there other ways or details we can actually get? Can I just get the person's ID and my name, my date of birth, my address, various details about me already on the ID, right? So those are ways to rethink about digital transformation for the microfinance space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Etho, what do you have to say about this?
Thank you so much. And for me, this is an exciting topic. And I would say, as a microfinance sector, we can never be left behind. Remember, what's our mandate as a microfinance sector? We have always had banks, but the issue has been that the banks have been not really able to get to the bottom of the pyramid, which gap we are covering as a microfinance sector. And now when we talk about the digital transformation, we can never be left behind, because in any case, it is us as a microfinance sector who will be able to get to the bottom of the pyramid and introduce these concepts to them. For me, we can never talk about digital transformation and exclude digital literacy. It is us again, the statistics that we're hearing about the fiscal surveys. Believe me, it is us, the microfinance sector, that has made that financial inclusion percentage rise the manner that we are talking about them now. And it's time for us again to look at digital inclusion. What are we going to do? How are we going to make sure that that woman in that rural area, at that bottom of the pyramid, has access to that digital gadget, be able to transact in the comfort of their homes, and us being able to collect the data and be able to identify them digitally and be able to save them and better their lives for the future. For me, that's how we should not be left behind as a sector in digital transformation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Etho, for your very insightful remarks. Okay, so my next question goes to Mr. Benga Omolokun. I would like to know, as COVID-19 influenced everyone to use digital tools to access services like transactions, payments, ordering, were your clients ready? And how are clients adapting to the new normal? If at all, it's still referred to as a new normal, because it's been 3 years now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll say interestingly, we started Microfinance Bank in 2015, And when we started, we always knew we couldn't deal with cash, right? We didn't have the structures to deal with cash. But we hadn't really at that time defined the kind of technology that we wanted. Unfortunately, we did this in 2019, and we pretty much went live as a full digital platform in 2020. So we went live in 2019, but we did our market launch in February 2020, just as COVID hit. And I think the market was ready, right? Because the uptake was phenomenal, it was fantastic. People were locked out. People needed to communicate, people needed to continue to pay for things, people needed to buy things online. And I heard the keynote speaker talk about the central switch that was being set up in Rwanda. And in Nigeria, that's already a norm. And because the microfinance institutions are already keyed into it, everybody is already very used to instant payments, right? Which I suppose you also have with Momo now. In Nigeria, Momo is just starting. It's not really the main bedrock of payments. It's mostly driven by the banks. And so people were ready to take it up. And yes, it was spurred by COVID-19 to a large extent, because a number of people still had the banking apps, but never really used to use them. And I think I was reading an Athena report. The uptake wasn't largely driven by financial inclusion to a large extent. It was mostly driven by people who were already financially included. But then, when you think about it, I like to talk about financial inclusion, not just from a banking perspective, which is also what you see here. When you talk about the people in the bottom of the pyramid, there are a lot of institutions, organizations, platforms that are already interacting with these people, right? You have farmer associations or agencies trying to boost agricultural adoption, things like that. Right? You have people in healthcare. And all of these people still require the exchange of cash, right? And who better to do this than a financial institution? So they might not be directly included, but implicitly they are included, right? And we've seen this happen even more since then. So you now have a lot of institutions, and you have like Apex, I know they operate in East Africa as well. In Nigeria, it's a commodity exchange. They have like a number of farmers that we work with. They help them pay for the commodities. They have local buying agents who go to the farms, buy these commodities from them, and help facilitate it all the way to export, right? So now you have an organization like Apex that has like a captive market of farmers. So some of these farmers, well, I know my onions. I know how to farm cassava and all of those things. I come under Apex. I suddenly have access to credits because I'm part of this organization that will give me credits or give me money upfront to farm and give me the rest after when I deliver exclusively to them. So in the years since COVID, we've seen that these kind of organizations help further the adoption of financial services. And because as a digital bank, using technology, we're now able to enable these kinds of businesses, right, to provide these kinds of services to their customers faster, it's easier, it breaks down those barriers of trust that a lot of the people in that sector usually have for banks and other financial institutions. It also helps with speed because you know that instantly transactions can actually fly. So it hasn't reduced, it's actually increased. And last year, the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced a new policy to drive cashless adoption, cashless payment adoptions. And just for context, every year since 2019, the mobile money transactions, and this is mobile money alone, right? Payments have tripled, right? So we started out in 2019 with say 300 million in mobile money in transactions with not mobile money as in Momo. In Nigeria, it's more or less mobile payments, right? We started out with about $300 million. In 2020, this rose to, I think, about $700 million by 2022, this was already at about $4 billion thereabouts, right? So year on year, it has sort of tripled, right? And I think NIBS actually, well, I do remember, I can't remember the number, but NIBS actually said in February, that was the largest volume of transactions ever in Nigeria, simply because the CPN started this cashless policy, right? And finally, I think one of the other things that has also sustained the switch to digital has also been agents. And the penetration of the agents in the local areas has also supported this as well.
Okay, so still on Nigeria, besides the big institutions and all the big initiatives to promote digital transformation, we have noticed that there's so many young startups growing up, especially being started up by the youth, especially. We also know that Nigeria has a very big percentage of the youth. What contribution has the Bank of Nigeria played, or what contribution has it given to promote young startups and the youth that are trying to emerge into the microfinance field and promote digital transformation?
So the Central Bank of Nigeria has they came up with a policy in I think it launched in 2021, a sandbox. They created a sandbox environment and released a framework. So essentially, if you're a startup and you want exposure to the financial services ecosystem, you could sign up to join the sandbox. And this is essentially regulatory sanctioned experiments, right? So they allow you partner with a third-party bank, and this gives you implicit approval from the central bank. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really so sure how many institutions have taken advantage of that, but what a number of institutions have taken advantage of is partnerships with existing microfinance institutions who are licensed and have access to financial technology infrastructure, which is the central switch and all the sanctioned infrastructure by the regulators. So partnerships with existing microfinance institutions, partnerships with larger banks, that's essentially really how a number of these institutions have been able to take things on.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is a general question for all of you. What do you understand about microfinance in the cloud, and is this the future of microfinance and finance sector in general? So who can we start? We can start with you, sir.
Okay, so I just want to pick up on maybe from where he was also as a writer,
Sure.
and borrow from the speakers earlier on financial inclusion, then I'll tie it to the cloud conversation. Every time we speak about financial inclusion, I think we need to add financial wealth and financial health. So inclusion in itself is not enough. When you think of the MFI, some of the challenges their customers face, there's around costs, there's around literacy as well. So the moment I onboard this person, how do I make sure that he remains financially wealthy and financially healthy? So we really need to define the products by which we are extending to these consumers. So the financial inclusion conversations needs to go beyond just I've included you, but how am I making you healthy and wealthy in that same ecosystem? So when it comes to microfinance in the cloud, again, very, very wide conversation here because, like I said initially, context is very important, and I'll bring it down to Rwanda as well. By the time we start discussing cloud solutions is what does a regulation of the day speak to? So we have to look at the regulator, we have to look at the data privacy and data protection rules, like in Rwanda, there is SASNA. I'm sure most of you know that you have around 6 months to be compliant with I think it's a data protection law that was passed 2 years ago. And by October 15th, a lot of people in Rwanda needs, or most of the financial sector needs to comply. Now, the question comes in, before I even think of MFIs leveraging the cloud, is trying to understand, am I compliant with the regulation of the day? Do I understand what the regulation asks me to do? Is it on-prem? Is it, or on soil? Or if I do cloud, what does it mean? What are the security levels that I need to do? So there are certain regulatory matters or policies that have already been put in place. And for MFIs, as you start building your strategy on looking at the benefits or going cloud solution, you first must understand your environment, the regulatory structure and frameworks and policies. What are the data laws speaking to? Because cloud is all about my data is sitting somewhere else. How comfortable is your regulator with your data sitting elsewhere? And then also it has to link to your consumer at the end of the day, because the products you develop, you have to make sure these products align back to your consumer. I've seen MFIs bringing in consultants, do a very brilliant job. The board gives approval for them to start their digital transformation. A solution is in-house, and 2 years down the line, they've not moved. So the question is, where is the disconnect? So as I start thinking about cloud, in BPC we say we bridge real life to digital or smart to tradition. But before we do that, you as an MFI, you need to know the why and the how before we bring in the what, which is now the cloud solution. There's a number of security things that you need to think about. When you think about the cloud, it's considered it's cheaper than on-prem because you really don't have to bring in a lot of servers. But think about the costs. Again, I'll give an example of Still Rwanda here, where there are different types of MFIs. I think the categories are three: the Murenjes, the cooperatives, and the professionals. And even if you bring 10 of these people together, the total is over 1 million. If you bring 10 of them together, because each has around over 12,000 customers, monthly transactions, and you tell them you're even charging $1,000 a month, they can't afford it. They just can't afford it. Maybe if you bring the conversation to around 500. Now, once you understand these key fundamentals, then now we bring the conversation of cloud solutions, right? How can we leverage cloud? And there's a number of security measures. Once you pass what your data laws are talking about, what your regulation is talking to, then now you can come to vendors or other partners or collaborators to try to understand, what do I really need to be able to leverage the cloud solution? By just having a conversation around MFIs, here's a solution, you can do cloud services or you can do on-prem, regardless, context will always remain key. And these are conversations that we can keep on having until we understand the context of the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Frank Moller, what do you have to say about...
That's me.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Benga Omolokun, what is your take on microfinance moving to the cloud?
So my take really is, again, contextual, as Mr. Frank has also said. I would define cloud as not necessarily, I think the importance of cloud is flexibility, right? I think it's flexibility and growth. That's the real point of even talking about cloud in the first place. Cloud doesn't necessarily mean it has to be Google, Amazon, or Microsoft Cloud, where the data is hosted elsewhere. Cloud could also be provided by local service provider, local service partner as well. I don't know how MTN operates in Rwanda as an example, but MTN generally does provide cloud services, right? Most telcos will be able to provide cloud services because they're very huge on infrastructure. But the key thing really is the flexibility and also the cost. Again, I don't know if microfinance institutions in Rwanda are very, very rich, but looking at, in Nigeria, the big banks are the richest, right? The microfinance institutions are always working on very thin margins at the end of the day. So it's very expensive when you start thinking about technology, because this whole digital transformation thing that we're talking about is not cheap. It's very expensive, depending on what it is you want to achieve. However, you do have service providers. I'm familiar with Core. They used to be called Bank One in Nigeria, as an example. And I've always actually been a fan of what they do, because when we started out using Bank One. What they essentially help you do is, right from day one, as a bank, you can onboard, and the fees were not exorbitant, right? And it covered everything from your hosting to service management, card issuance, all the things that a microfinance bank needed to quickly hit the ground running. But it was a cloud solution, right? The kinds of questions that they could answer, or the expertise that they had, was abstracted from the bank. So it was very easy for a bank to know that, oh, I have a technical partner that has this sort of expertise. They understand security implications and all of these things, right? And they can manage that aspect, whilst the microfinance bank focused on their core. So you do have like a lot of technology service providers that can do this, and it's hosted locally. I will still call that cloud, because the key thing there is the flexibility. I also honestly think it's inevitable for all microfinance institutions to go digital, right? Because the world has changed, right? We're no longer, competing with big banks or other microfinance institutions. You're now competing with a logistics service provider, right, to provide financial services. And to give you an example, in Nigeria you have this ride-hailing service providers, and I don't know if you have them in Rwanda too, but you have all the Safe Border, they're in Uganda, you have Max, you have a lot of these guys, right? And these guys, and using an example in Nigeria, they've been able to move earning potentials of individuals from, say, 50,000 naira. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact conversion, but let's say approximately maybe $1,000, or actually $100, about $100 a month to 300,000 naira, which is close to $700 a month. Now, if that institution, and these are the kind of things that they're now starting to do, right? Because they've given this guy a motorcycle that he can earn. They've given him an app that he can actually use to monitor and get people to book his ride. What they're now trying to do is say, well, we already know what you earn. Can we now give you a loan or provide other services? You're going to earn that money in any case. Right? They already have track record and all that. So that's enabled because of digitization. If microfinance banks don't digitize, you're out, right? I think that's just the reality. And when we think about cloud, I'll just encourage us not to think about it as the very expensive AWS, Microsoft, Oracle, all those cloud services, but also think about it more from the context of even a local service provider. Right, providing these services to the MFIs, which I think is the first step in digitization.
Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. Etho, what is your take on this?
I would agree with my colleagues. And for me, as MFIs moving to the cloud, like what he said, it's inevitable. These are the things that are happening to us today. And we can never run away. If we try to ignore, it means our existence is questionable tomorrow. And for me, these cloud services, they're actually making life so cheaper even for our institutions as businesses. Because think of it right now, I know I've got a case, I think it's in Uganda, where they've got a shared platform as services, as institutions. And we are no longer building brick and mortar structures in those areas that we were not able to reach. We are just using the very same structures that are there because of the access that we have to our system because of the cloud services. So we can never run away from that. But the issue that we need to be mindful of, that data, of privacy of data, yes, we need to be able to do that. The security, the regulation around it, we can never ignore that. But as microfinance institutions, I think for us, we need to sit down and think about how best can we partner with all these other service providers. It's all about partnership. Truly speaking, we cannot do it all alone. Let the experts do what they can do in their lane, and we do what we know best in our lane. So we need these partnerships. We need to be able to define and even to explain to the so-called upcoming competitors that we are seeing who are providing certain services and at the end of the day trying to provide credit, savings and insurance. It's us sitting in a room and showing each other the best expertise that we have as sectors. And if we come into partnership, we lower the cost. After we've lowered the cost, this has got obviously positive results to the end consumer that we are trying to serve at the bottom of the pyramid. You know, imagine a scenario where my mother in the rural area does not have to think twice. She's feeling like she's transacting with cash at the end of the day, yet she's transacting online. So we cannot really ignore the cloud services as a sector. And these are the things that we should actually take up very fast and look for partnerships, fintech companies, so that we can provide those products and services that we have to the end consumer in a very cheap manner.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Etho. Now, you mentioned something to do with clients, right? Can you just briefly tell us, as someone in the financial sector in Zimbabwe, what do your institutions do to track what your clients expect from the financial sector? And basically what services they in need of from you?
Thank you so much. So from the Zimbabwe concept, even I think this is Africa at large. Whenever I speak to my colleagues, I say, guys, let's sit down. Let's not come up with products from the comfort of our offices in those aircons. We can never save these people. And some of the products that they are not using is because it's us who have just thought a product and thought this will fit well. Let's get out of those offices. Let's join them in the lifestyles that they are living. Let's look for the pain points. Let's identify those pain points. Like in our situation in Zimbabwe, yes, we are in a bit of a cash economy today, but we've got so many cross-border traders. Truly, they can never deny a Visa card. But in what form is it coming for? Do I have to leave my little store in that market to go and knock at the door of a bank, of a microfinance, so that I can get my card? Surely I can't. Remember, I'm the breadwinner. I'm the shopkeeper. I'm everything there. You understand? So what should we do? It's us now taking the bank to the people. We need to find field officers who can go and serve that woman. Sorry, I'm so biased to women.
I love the fact that you're passionate about this.
Yeah, so it's me as a banker who has to find now, how do I get there? If I've not really managed to serve them digitally, what should then do I do for me to be able to go and serve them in the comfort of their businesses, because they will never afford to come to me? The other aspect that we need to look into as microfinance again is that aspect of what is that speaks to them the most. surely it cannot only be credit. You know, they are also yearning to have these savings, to have insurance products, micro insurance. If my mom dies today, I should not take out money from my business and fund that funeral. As a microfin, am I looking into that, into the whole spectrum of a lifestyle? How do I come in so that the small business is served and let the funeral also go in a decent manner that I'm expecting it to go as a person? You follow? So these are the things and the products that we need to start thinking. But we can never come up with these products if we're sitting in our offices. We need to go out there and meet with them and listen. If there's anything, we should be able to listen. Even this aspect of digital inclusion that I'm talking about, you know, what is that the technical support that they need? If I go into the market today, truly, and I give them all of them smartphones, and they don't even know where the start button is, what have I done? I've just wasted resources. But I need to take a step further. It is up to us. It is our honors to take a step further to make sure they are able to interact, to make sure that they can do these things better. It is our honors to make sure that we negotiate even with the internet service providers, because it's for the benefit of our clients. Let's negotiate with them what percentages they can come down, especially when we are talking about the bottom of the pyramid. How much can we really make them pay in terms of internet service? It should be affordable for them to be persuaded to use this. The content that we are giving them on our TikToks, on our WhatsApp messages. Now, in Zimbabwe, we are using WhatsApp banking. We are passing information, but WhatsApp is everyone from a 7-year-old now has got a WhatsApp platform. And what information are we pushing on those platforms? The content that we are pushing. Are we teaching them the necessity, the basics of budgets, the basics of, prioritizing expenses, savings? Are we doing that? And these are the products that the bottom of the pyramid are needing for them to live a better life for tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Etho. So we're now going to give an opportunity to the audience to ask some questions. Do we have anyone in the audience that has a question to ask our panelists here? Anyone? Okay, see we have a hand up over there. So may you please, can you please pass the mic over to him?
Thank you very much. My name is Mbari Machiavelli. I'm the manager of SACCO. So one question that I have is about the two important variables that has been mentioned by Dr. Ethan: digital service and digital literacy. So while Governor has been mentioning in the remark in the morning, he said that there is a progress in the particularity of Rwanda, whereby the Omurenge SACCO has played a role of bridging the gap between the unbanked for access to finance, whereby the statistics that has been just recorded is showing good improvement. So as you are talking that the future of microfinance should be digital, there should be a fear that the situation might be diversity. Because this kind of literacy you are talking about, this population that you are talking about, many of them, they are illiterate. And you are talking about digital services. So how far now we are going to correlate digital services with those illiterate people? Are we not going to experience the same situation whereby many people were unbanked while we are failing to bridge the gap? So if you were to advise, what are the strategies should you advise to these practitioners at microfinance they should adopt in order to make sure that this kind of improvement will continuously be there as long as they are digitalized? That is one. The second one and the last, I would like to get more about this issue of WhatsApp banking. You have said if you have to design the product, yes, of course, we have to reach there to those people and understand their needs. so that you can better design this digital product that can better satisfy them. So please let us know whether this WhatsApp banking cannot be a platform to use to connect with them their different geographical location without necessarily going there physically. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else with a question? Okay, so we'll just take questions from two people, and then I see there's a third hand over there. Okay, can you just pass the mic over to her?
All right.
Oh, okay, great. All right,
Hello, my name is Maria Cheadle, and I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders of Adressia. My other co-founder is here. I have a question for the panel. I've heard many of the speakers talk about privacy and the rights of the individual to have protection of their privacy. And I would like to ask the panel, what would you consider be state-of-the-art in privacy for the end user and the individual today? And what would you recommend the microfinance institutions that we have present here to work towards? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, please pass the mic over to her.
My name is Ijoma from Grants Microfinance Bank, Nigeria. My question is to Mr. Benga. He mentioned something about sandbox, and my question to him would be in three stages. The first one would be, did his bank actually use the sandbox? The second one would be, what were the experiences and challenges faced using it? And then the last one would be, what would be his advice to MFBs before embarking on the use of sandbox in Nigeria? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So the first question goes to Dr. Itho. The second question is a general question, if I'm correct. I think we'll have Mr. Frank Mola to take up that question. And then the third question goes to Mr. Benga. All right, so we'll start off with you, Dr. Itho.
Thank you. Thank you. So the question was on digital literacy strategies, if I got it well. You know, I always say, ladies and gentlemen, even for my 6-year-old to be able to cook today, I did something about it. You know, she's not just growing into a full mature woman without knowing the basics even of my culture. But how did I make her get to know that? It's because I used a language that she understood. I think these digital literacy programs should go into our clients in vernacular languages. Let's not try to go and use big words. Let these gadgets interact in the languages that they understand, in that mother language that they know how to interact with. I think that's the first strategy. Let's not just be using one language because the systems are being made by maybe people that are not speaking the same language with us. Let's translate them so that they speak to them. And also, our platforms should be user-friendly. They should be so easy to use. You know, it should not be so complicated that when I'm asked my name, I'm always used to know that when I'm asked, what is your name? I introduce myself, Dr. Ethel Mpambwa. Why should I be asked, what's your name? What's your surname? Can we do it in a manner that has been always given to us in everything as we were growing up? This will make sure that the people that we are targeting for them to be literate, they'll get to catch up with these things in a more faster way. And also, let's come up with certain products like in our country, we actually have, in my institution actually, I have a gadget loan where I give a smartphone which translates to vernacular language, and this smartphone is paid as low as $5 per month over a very long period of time. They are already having the comfort of using the smartphone already, and now I'm going to be passing on messages in vernacular languages so that they get to know and they get to interact and they get to enjoy the gadgets that they are with. I think this is the first point. Let's try to move back to the vernacular languages in which our societies understand. And you also commented about the WhatsApp banking. No, there are so many messages and jokes that circulate on WhatsApp platforms. I always say to people, can we not go to these comedians and start circulating, better information which can be received with our youths, which can be received with our clients out there, so that they also see the fun in savings. Can we not make jokes around savings? If I save, what am I gaining? If I have insurance, what's the fallback plan? Let's make it very simple. And these platforms are easy for us to be able to communicate with the type of people that we are trying to serve and make sure their lives become better lives in the future.
Oops. Thank you so much, Dr. Itho. Mr. Benga, can you please answer the question they asked?
Okay,
the lady over there.
All right, thank you very much. So the first answer is no. We've not used the regulatory sandbox. We did go through the framework when it came out, and I don't actually know anybody who has. I do know that they said they had started applications, receiving applications, then I think at some point they said they had stopped receiving applications, to be honest. And my advice really is the regulatory sandbox is really for people who want to test out new innovative processes, right, or innovative ideas. My advice really is you can literally do the same. As a bank, you have a license, so you can literally, as long as it's within the remit of what the bank can do, it's either deposits, it's credits, it's transaction processing. As long as you can frame what it is you're trying to do around any of these things, there is no need to go through the sandbox. And if it's very unique, you might actually decide to partner with a third-party organization that either has a license, say maybe it's an insurance, or a much bigger bank that can actually accommodate some of those activities, say if you're dealing with foreign currency, as an example as well.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mola?
Thank you. When you talk about data, again, data privacy, it's a very, very wide conversation to have. One thing I always I like sharing is strategy is also what not to do. It's not always what you have to do. Leadership is also a decision that you don't have to make. Sometimes you need to take steps back and try to understand a number of things that are happening in your ecosystem. So, for example, let's bring it to the Rwanda context. Like I said earlier, if you want your end consumer to understand, because there's an issue around MFIs, somebody say they're illiterate, which a majority of them are. If you look at M-Pesa in Kenya, it worked because I could easily send money to my mom using a featured phone. She would get it, go and access the money, and that's it. They really didn't need much education and all that stuff, right? So it was a very, very simple thing. The same was tried in South Africa, but it didn't work. Something totally different. So how do you educate the end person? Like my mom, who was in the up country and really doesn't know so much. The only way my mom can be educated, what Safaricom did is they started with very simple advertisement, extremely simple, and speaking to them. Here is a son who is in Nairobi, walking into an M-Pesa agent, putting in the details like money I'm sending. Then they show up countryside. This is how you get it. They show them how they are going to the shop to withdraw. It's a very simple advertisement. And then also what they did is they used different languages so that they're able to reach to the different people at the bottom of the pyramid, like we're calling them. But now the critical part now here is this. if myself as a solution provider, myself as a MFI, or myself as a person in charge of this docket, I do not understand what my laws talk about data privacy, there is no way I will be able to train the person who is my customer down there. Number one, I don't know if you're aware that, like in Kenya, for example, and just like other countries, I know Uganda is coming up with a data privacy law. I think it's already there. Tanzania started in December. Rwanda, it's been there 2 years ago, but now you need to be compliant within the next 6 months. But do you know some of these data privacy laws call for you to make the customer aware that you cannot use, you need their consent to use some of their data. It goes to that point. We've seen in Kenya where a few financial institutions have been fined for using customers' data sometimes. So there is an education leg where you have to understand what are the laws of the day. What is SSCA, I think, or data protection laws in Rwanda talking about? You have to read it, you have to understand it, then that way you're going to take it forward to your team within your organization, and then now you see how to sensitize your consumers because they need to know. But there has to be different models by which we try to understand how to sensitize our people. Context, like I said initially, is very important, but we cannot contextualize things if we really don't understand what our regulations of the day speak to. And maybe as I close, I always like saying, it's always good to fix, your house when the sun is still high up, not when the rain is there. We are having the digital narrative now moving, for MFIs. It should be the right time for you to think about moving, not when you start being hit by things like fraud. Technology keeps on advancing. The human psychology remains the same. So we need to get to a point where we marry these two. As technology is growing, let us also make sure we embed ourselves with that. But it is upon us to make sure that we understand the laws of the day, the data policies of the day, because the one in Kenya might differ with the one in Rwanda or the one in Tanzania. And once you understand that, it will be easier for you to educate your end consumer, and then in turn, they'll know their rights around data privacy. And everybody comes together in terms of building a national digital economy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mola. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of this panel discussion. I would like to thank you all for your contribution. Dr. Etho Mupambwa, the CEO of Money Mart Finance Zimbabwe. Thank you so much, Mr. Frank Mola, the MD and head of Sub-Sahara Africa at PBC Kenya. Mr. Benga Omolokun, the VFD of Microfinance Bank Nigeria. May we all please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution. So ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to break off for lunch. It will take up about an hour or so, 30 minutes to 1 hour, and then we'll come back here for more activities. Thank you so much.
Store or walk up into a stand, you want to make transfer of $500 to someone, just punch in the destination account, put your face to it, and the money is wired. Maybe we're going to get there, right? That's the future. And then let's quickly talk about the core responsibility, roles, and objectives of microfinancing. And then the goal, I try to separate it, right, is that microfinancing is to provide individuals and businesses with financial support and resources to start to grow their small businesses, improve the quality of life, and to contribute to their community. Very simple. And then the core responsibility is to promote financial inclusion. All the speakers that have been ahead of me have spoken about financial inclusion, right, which I think is something that we need to look into. As it is, are we doing the job? I would say yes, we're trying, but there's still a lot to be done when it comes to financial inclusion. And that is what microfinancing is supposed to do, right? where microfinance institutions are actually set up in rural areas, right? And the benefit is you can reach those people in the remote because you understood their language, you understood their living behavior, and then you can tailor your product to actually suit them. During the panel discussion, I know someone was mentioning about how we build products. We build products from our head, right? We just think this set of people will need something. But at the end of the day, we notice that it's a wasted resources because what we've built, the adoption is very, very low. And what that means is we need to go back to the grassroots, right, where the responsibility is to move closer to these people, speak to them, know where their pain point is, and then you can now build any digital product in that line. I'll just quickly read the objectives. Okay, so the screen is not moving. Just 1 second. Okay, I think we're there. So the objectives, right, of microfinancing, just I've mentioned, I'm not going to read a lot, right? I think everybody can pretty much see from the screen. The one that I really want to touch on is the financial literacy and education, which is very, very important. And that's where I think the gap is. A whole lot of people are out there that cannot use technology. And when you're building a technology for people that can't even use the technology, then I think it's a wasted resources. So microfinance institution, MFIs, need to go back to the main objective, which is promoting financial literacy and education. And then every other thing, I think, can really follow. Let's look at the regulatory requirement of microfinancing. Right? I've tried to just put them into 5 bullet points, and you'll believe that, or you agree with me that this thing, you're already doing them, but I think we just need to ensure that we reinforce it. And the first one is the registration with appropriate regulatory authority, which is very, very important. And that's why in all the countries we have the central banks, right? For in Nigeria, you have the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Central Bank of Rwanda, Central Bank of Ghana, and those are the body that actually ensure that anything that has to do with financial services or institution regulation are there, right? And I think all the central banks in Africa are doing a great job as it is. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay. For those that clap, 1 chocolate for you. And for those that are not clapping, let's go one more time. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, thank you. The second thing is the minimum capital requirement, right? And this actually differs from country to country. In Nigeria, I know it has been revised. Initially, it used to be 50 million capital share. They moved to 100 million, and I think the highest now is 200 million, right? And different countries, right, with their own different policies, but it's very, very important that we know this. The next thing is the reporting and the disclosure requirement. Data policy is very, very important, right? And then the reporting back to this regulatory authority is very, very important. The next thing is to ensure that we comply with the customer protection regulation. And that's where the whole evolution of data protection policy, right? The NDPR, the GDPR actually evolved from. We need to ensure that we protect our customers, right? And you will see along the journey when I'm going how we can actually make this happen. And lastly, which is something that is alarming right now, is the compliance with AML and CTF regulations, which is the KYC as it is. So why do we need to stay compliant, right? The simple reason is regulatory requirements are essential to ensure that the objective and sustainable operations, and it also helps to protect the interests of clients, maintain financial stability, and prevent criminal activities. All right, hope you're enjoying my session so far. If you're enjoying, wave your hand. If you're not enjoying, okay, so like, you have to listen, don't worry. I have 30 minutes, so whether you like it or not, you must enjoy me. All right? Okay, so let's quickly look through what digital ID verification, right, is all about, and then some key points that we need to note. Now, digital ID just refers to digital representation of individual's identity, which can be verified electronically. While identity verification, on the other hand, is just the process of confirming the authenticity of individual's identity. Now, there are different forms of identities, right? You have, for example, your international passport is one. Another one is your national ID. And then today you have like what I would tag a social identity, right? That means there's your behavior on a social media platform. And if you bring all this together, we can actually define or present to you your identity on social media. But all this are just forms of identity and how we can actually verify them. And we're going to look at some of the few statistics that we have. The market is actually growing, and it will keep growing. And it is forecasted that the market is going to be about $15.8 billion by 2025, which means people are coming online to obtain digital services and products. And for that reason, there's a need for you to identify whoever is coming to your platform to pick up any of the services. And if we narrow it down to Africa as it is, I would say World Bank reported that more than 1 billion people in Africa lack official identification, meaning they don't have any form of identification. Now, the big question that we need to ask ourselves is, when you can identify someone, how can you do business with that person, right? And that means there's a very huge opportunity in the identity verification space. A typical example is what happened in Nigeria, where the government introduced what we know as the national identity number. And the whole goal is to ensure that every citizen of Nigeria have an identity. So we can identify you wherever you are. And before you can pick up any digital service, whether you want to go to a financial institution like the banks, commercial banks, or the microfinance, or even the financial technology company, we must use this number to identify you. And the concept is actually simple. If you look at developed countries like the United States, where they have the social security number, it means that anything that you want to do, the social security number is linked to that. If you go to the UK, for example, they have what's called a national insurance number. And the national insurance number is actually tied to everything, your driver's license, anything you can think of. And I think it's a good innovation for us in Africa to also adopt, where we have just one ID that's connected to all the IDs that we have, and from there you can identify someone. The next thing is the journey of identity verification, right? How it all started, and then where it is now, and then where it's going to go. So sorry about this. Okay. So identity verification back then used to be a manual process. And what that means is, if you're lucky to have a premium ID, and I call premium ID the IDs that you need to pay for, right? For example, your driver's license, you have to pay for it. Your international passport, right? You have to pay for it. And then it's not everybody that actually have such financial resources to go purchase this ID, in quote, right? And what that means is, financial services back then is only limited to those who can afford to have this form of ID. But I think today, with every country having what's called a national identity number, which is the free ID, right, digital services can actually be assessed. So today, there's a concept that we all know that is called the KYC, which is just know your customer. And it's part of the regulatory requirement right now for financial institutions to say, if you have to do business with anybody, what that means is you must be able to identify and verify the person. So what that means is, if I claim that my name is Niyi Henry, then if you search my name, right, using my ID number against any government agency database, it must show the real self, right, as it is. There are other technologies that we can actually bundle to this to be able to identify properly who this person is, because I think identity verification has gone beyond saying my name is Niyi and yeah, this is Niyi, to saying, I want to really know who you are, I want to know how you transact. That's where transaction monitoring pretty much comes into play. I want to screen you, I want to know that you are not on any of the sanction list, right? And we have a whole lot of sanction lists as it is. So, what's the future of microfinance in Africa, right? I think the first thing is the digitization of microfinancing. And I won't speak so much on that because I think the panel discussion has already tackled that, right? But it means that people are adopting technology. And as people are adopting technology, we need to ensure that we give them the right technology to use. Something very simple, something that is not really complicated for them to use, right? Because sometimes, even though technology is good, I think it comes with its own complication. For every technology that is in place, there's a risk, right, to it. I'll give you a typical example. The whole money transfer, then when you want to make transfer, you have to go to the bank, right? And then what that means is they'll have to do some level of verification to be sure that this account belongs to you. But nowadays, we see errors like trying to transfer to someone else's account, and because there's a mistake in one digit in the account number, you wire the money to someone else, right? And sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to get back those sort of funds. Another challenge is because most of this thing run on the internet stability becomes a problem. So when you want to transfer money, you notice that the mobile app is not working, right? So you have to wait for technology to be stable. But there are a whole lot of advantages to all these things. The next thing is financial inclusion. Just as I mentioned earlier, we are doing very good, but I think there's still room for improvement. And the best route that I think for us to go when it comes to financial inclusion is to actually start with the financial literacy, where we educate people about this thing, and then we provide an enabling infrastructure for them to be financially included. The next thing is impact investing. Most of the investment now has to do with social responsibilities, right? And what that means is if you're solving real problems, I think there are a lot of investment outside that you can actually tap for. Now, the regulatory environment, something that has stood out for most of the country is them having what's called a regulatory sandbox. And what that simply means is a test environment where you can test all your ideas, right? And then as you're testing the ideas, the government on the other side is already thinking of the regulatory policy to put in place to support your innovation. Because sometimes innovation can run pretty much faster beyond policy, right? But the whole concept of regulatory sandbox is for government to be able to see what the innovation is all about and then be able to create policies that's going to ensure that this innovation is really, really good. The last one is partnership and collaboration. Partnership is very important. You can't do it all alone, and what that means is you need someone to collaborate with. If you want to do it all alone, yeah, it's fine, but what that means is you need to invest so much in doing everything. And that's why we have technology providers who are there to support your mission, who are there to make your processes pretty much easier and faster. The future of microfinance in Africa looks promising, with opportunity for growth and development. However, there's still need for more investment in the sector and continued collaboration among stakeholders to ensure the benefits of microfinance are accessible to all Africans. And at the point where we are able to achieve less than 95% of financial inclusion, I think we've done well. All right, so how is digital ID going to help to drive the future of microfinancing in Africa? Just have defined what identity verification is all about. The COVID-19 brought a whole lot of change, right, that happened. It means that we are all at home, looking at our faces, and if you want to pick up a service, it's either you're on schedule, you can't come at a time when you feel like, and we're all restricted to a whole lot of things. So what that means is a whole lot of people are going online, right, to pick up digital services. And if this is the case, what that means is you need to be able to identify this set of people. And just I've mentioned again, the whole concept of KYC, KYB, and AML, CTF is coming into place. Today, there are a lot of recommendations from from international bodies like the FATF, giving recommendations to financial institutions on how to go about this whole landscape and the whole changing thing that is happening. For example, the money laundering issue and also the terrorist financing. And there are policies in place for people, right, to actually adopt to make sure that they are fighting against money laundering and also against terrorist financing. And I think the foundation of this starts from the KYC, identity verification. And the first thing is identity verification can actually help to drive the future of microfinancing, because a time will come when you don't need people to come to your physical building to open an account, to apply for credit or even insurance. They can do it from their mobile phone. But before that could happen, identity verification is very, very important. The second thing that identity verification is going to do is to drive the financial inclusion. Imagine everybody having one form of ID, right? I think it's going to be super easy for you to onboard anybody, do what is called the onboarding screening, and then be able to monitor them to ensure that they are doing what they're supposed to do. It helps to reduce risk and also increase efficiency, right? So what that means is all the manual processes that we've been doing, we can now automate them. And automation reduces cost and at the same time reduces time. So if you're spending 5 hours in doing identity verification, checking the names against what has been filled, technology is here to actually help you, right, to stay efficient. That means the 5 hours could actually be reduced to 1 minute or even possible to second. And then you can use the other luxurious time that you have to do something pretty much innovative and good. The next thing is security and accuracy. The reason why we are having all this money laundering, all this issue of terrorist financing is simply because there's a gap in the identity management system, right, that we all use. Today, if you look at money laundering and how money laundering is being performed, you will notice that there's a whole gap that is happening. Oh, sorry, my slide is pretty much running, so maybe it means it's time for me to round up. Okay, well, as I've said, we have few times. In a nutshell, let me just quickly round up on that. It says the future of microfinancing rely heavily on digital identity verification. With more people coming online to access financial services through digital channel, it is essential for microfinance institutions to embrace digital identity verification as a tool to drive financial inclusion, reduce risk, increase efficiency, and provide more secure and reliable identity verification. And I think that's why we are here. My company is called Prembly, and we provide identity verification in different buckets. And you will see what that is in the next slide. So, who are we? We are actually a compliance and security infrastructure provider for financial institutions like banks, microfinance institutions, fintech, insurtech, health tech, and even other digital businesses. We provide a complete KYC and KYB AML CTF solutions by leveraging connections to data sources like the government, the financial institutions themselves, the telcos, and others. And then we've now mixed it with the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning to be able to provide accurate results for digital identity verification, reduce identity theft, reduce money laundering, and also terrorist financing in emerging markets, starting from Africa. What's our role? Our role is to complement the future of financial innovation by supporting the efforts of regulators and making it possible for financial institutions, microfinancial institutions, technology providers like fintechs, and other digital businesses to stay compliant, to provide efficiency, save cost, and carrying out their core business objectives. And what is our mission? Our mission is to make everyday life easier and secure for individuals and businesses in Africa and in emerging markets. Imagine you just waking up and then everything you need to do is on your mobile phone. Whether you have an internet-enabled phone or the other one, you can actually carry out any form of service that you think of. That's making life easier. And imagine an economy where you don't have to be afraid of identity theft or even payment fraud as it is. I think it's going to be the kind of country or the future we are looking at and we're dreaming. Now, our core coverage, where do we provide services today? Okay. We provide data verification in countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Uganda, and South Africa. And then we have what's called a document verification, which includes your driver's license, international passport. For this, we cover the entire Africa, Europe, North, and Latin America. And then for business verification, which is know your business, if you want to do a KYB on anybody who is a legal entity, we can actually help you do that globally. And our product. The first one we have, which is the flagship product, is called Identity Pass. And Identity Pass, just as the name is, means we help you to pass someone's identity. So we check properly to ensure that whoever you're about to do business with is who they claim they are, right? And we've actually bundled what's called a biometric layer on this. And what the biometric layer is all about is to affirm that this person who claims that his name is X is actually X. So we do what's called face matching, face authentication. We do fingerprint as well. And these are the true identity of someone. It's actually difficult for you to remove your face and put someone else's face, right? Or because you want to access digital service. It's not possible. And even if you try to create an artificial face, our solution can actually detect that. The second product that we have is called Identity Radar. And this is a complete AML and CTF solution, right? So what we do is we do what's called onboarding screening. So we help you to examine your customer beyond what they've provided you. We check them to ensure that their names are not found on any of the sanction list. They're not criminals or something else. They're not supporting terrorist financing, neither are they found on money laundering. And then we do what's called a continuous monitoring. So at the time when you onboard them throughout their lifetime on your platform, we are checking them to ensure that they are not doing anything fraudulent. And if they are, we give you a report and you can take necessary action. And then the last product that we have is called the background check. And the background check is simply a complete background check for individual employees and for business. Thank you so much for listening. I think I've not taken so much of time. If you want to know more about us, please you can visit us at our booth. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest.
Thank you so much, Nii, for your wonderful presentation on Identity Pass by Premly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to move forward with the next activity, and that is a panel discussion. But this panel discussion is very exciting and very passionate to me because it's dedicated to women in the fields of technology and finance. It is very important that we continue acknowledging the involvement and contribution of women in these sectors, and also keep pushing for the gender equality, and also creating opportunities and making opportunities accessible for everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can see there's so many women in the room today, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be an exciting discussion for you as well. So without wasting any time, allow me to call upon the panel speakers for this discussion. Please join me as I welcome Pepita Uwineza. She's the Partnerships and Growth Manager at Pesa Choice. May we please clap for her as she walks up to the stage. Pepita Uwineza brings a wealth of experience in international business, having gained insights from working in various countries. She started her career in the tech sector in the United States, where she specialized in business development. Her primary objective is to create revenue and enhance market influence by developing a robust pipeline. Pepita's efforts have been directed towards driving initiatives that increase market share with a strong focus on improving the customer experience. Okay, so thank you so much for being with us here, Pepita. Next up, we have Nashipe Letepan. She is the Communications and Knowledge Sharing Manager for MasterCard Foundation Fund for Rural Prosperity. May we please clap for her? Nashipe Letepen, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. Do you mind correcting me? Okay, so she currently serves as the Communications and Knowledge Sharing Manager for the MasterCard Foundation Fund for Rural Prosperity. 50 million US dollar challenge fund set up to support private sector businesses across sub-Saharan Africa, looking to develop new products, services, or processes that increase access to finance for rural people, or that have the potential to scale up their most promising ideas to drive financial inclusion for smallholder farmers. All right, so moving forward, we have our next speaker, and that is Nelly Ruagitare, the Sales and Marketing Manager at Pesa Choice. May we please clap for her as she walks up to the stage. So Nelly Ruagitare is a versatile professional with over 5 years of experience across media, human resource, startups, and fintech. Her expertise include talent acquisition, performance management, content creation, and strategic decision-making. Nelly's track record of success is a testament to her adaptability and commitment to excellence. She's a result-driven professional who is passionate about making a positive impact in everything she does. All right, so once again, I am going to be the moderator for this panel discussion. I'm very excited about it because I am very passionate about everything women. Our experts here, they will be bringing a wealth of experience and diverse perspectives to our discussion today, and I'm sure that we're in for a very thought-provoking discussion on the involvement of women in these fields, technology and finance. So let's get started. Okay, so while finance has no gender, may we please talk about why there are more men than women in this field? Do you know any reasons behind all this? We'll start off with you.
All right, can you guys hear me? Great, okay. Hi, everyone. So I think it's a three-pronged answer to this question. I think the first one is the fact that there's societal and cultural norms that inhibit women from accessing education and opportunities within that specific sector, right? I think the second reason would be that it is a male-dominated sector, and what that creates is the fact that it inhibits women from getting a network of women who've worked in finance, and also it creates an issue of role models, right? You have young women who do not know that they can have a career in finance, right? Mm-hmm. And the third one, which I think is maybe the most important one, is the unconscious bias, right, that we might have, and discrimination against women. And so that needs to be addressed, particularly within the hiring practices of many institutions.
Okay, thank you. Neshpe, can we hear from you?
Okay. So I think one of the first things is lack of an enabling environment for women. So as my fellow panelist has mentioned, culturally we see that women have lack of access to education from a very young age. So that inhibits them from having access to technology. They lack the capacity building that is provided for them to be able to digitize their businesses. So I definitely think there needs to be a culture shift in able to include women within the sector.
Okay. Last but not least, Nelly?
Yes. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. It's very much a pleasure to be here today. This is something that we're trying to do to also include more women. I would say we applaud even this initiative itself, so thank you very much. I think, like my fellow panelists did say, it's always going to circle around three things, which is social norms and basically gender not being balanced in this. Let's say gender biases, for example, and lack of representation. I think Pepita did mention something like that. And growing up, if your mother was a farmer, you would want to be a farmer, right? But if your mother was a CEO of a certain bank, you would also look up to that and want to be that one as well. So lack of representation has really played a very big role in women not wanting to like dream bigger and all of that, but also women having, you know, these culture shocks that she just mentioned around where women have a lot of, you know, responsibilities, so they feel like it's very hard to balance them being decision makers or leaders in certain microfinances and financial sector as a whole. So I would say that's why we don't find a lot of women in the finance sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we proceed with our discussion, I'd just like to remind each one of you that if you have any questions, we're going to let everybody ask questions a little bit later on, but if you have any questions in Kinyarwanda, in French, or any other language, please feel free to ask. Yes, so we're going to proceed with our discussion, but you can also be preparing your questions. So moving forward, I would like to ask, this question goes to Nashipe, right? From Kenya, Nashipai. It's my first time hearing a name like that. It's a very beautiful name. So can you just briefly tell us, within the financial sector of Kenya, can you just tell us, give us a few success stories on how women, especially in undeserved communities, have been involved in microfinance development, especially when it comes to getting credit, yeah, and such things.
Okay, can you? Yeah. Okay, so I think giving the Kenyan context, and I want to narrow it down to the MasterCard Foundation Fund for Rural Prosperity. So the fund has a portfolio of 38 participant businesses spread across 15 sub-Saharan African countries. And through the funding that we provided, our portfolio of participants have been able to develop over 171 new products and services that have benefited women in the rural communities. So I would say that access to this finance is pegged largely on product designs. I definitely think that products need to be designed in a way whereby they bypass challenges that women face. So, for example, some of our fund participants have leveraged on technology and been able to provide these services to women who have been able to access credit without having previous credit history. There's also some who have provided the opportunities for women to be able to borrow in groups, because from a study that we initiated, we found that very many women preferred to borrow in groups, and the trajectory is that women do repay back on time, and they're able to, given that proper financing, they're able to then, you know, be more empowered and succeed within their businesses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. My next question goes to Nelly Ragitare from Pesa Choice. Nelly, you are Rwandan, right?
Yes, I'm very much Rwandan. Anyway.
Yeah. So you know Rwanda is a country that is known for pushing women empowerment, yes, and gender equality.
Yes.
But it seems when it comes to supporting women in the fields of finance and technology, there's still a little bit of a struggle. Yes. Can you please let us know why that is?
Why that is. Thank you very much. I would like to say that they really are doing an amazing job so far, right? And not even just Rwanda, but also in an African context. According to the World Bank, at least 80% of microfinance clients are women, right? So I think that's a great job, right? Done by either microfinances, but women. But what it does say a lot about women is that women are willing to participate in those initiatives, right? But it's just that the initiatives are not, you know, enough for them. So I would say one of the things that we can do to emphasize and help and encourage more women to join the financial inclusion journey is to first of all create like targeted marketing campaigns just for them, and my fellow panelists that did just say create like lending in groups, for example, borrowing in groups, because we have some of these in Rwanda called DB Mina mostly, and we all know that most of them are really led by women. They're always done by women. And we also know that when a woman is being empowered, it's a whole family at large. It's not just a woman, right? So having targeted campaigns just for women, but also creating more initiatives that are just dedicated for women, not just women, but also young girls like us here, or even younger girls and all of that. I would say that would increase a lot of women into the finance sector. Thank you.
So when it comes to women in areas that there's a very high illiteracy rate,
yes,
how do you get to support these women? How do you get to bring them on board
yes,
in these kind of things?
Yeah, I would say we also have to, part of the initiatives that we need to create is also find a way to educate them about, the importance of financial inclusion, educate them to like digitalizing the finance sector as well. Let's say you don't have to keep your money somewhere, in your house. In Rwanda bavuga ngo kuyashyira mu gitenge. Do we know that saying? Aho bayashyira ku gitenge. Yeah, so you don't have to have your money there. You can lend that money to a fellow woman yourself, which is in Chimina, for example, which is a very good initiative in Rwanda. And they can also understand that you can only not just give that money to somebody else, but that person can be able to save it and do something for themselves, hence increasing their lifestyles, but also empowering households at large. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Ray, go ahead.
Sorry, if I can add to that question as well. I think you also need to start thinking about the inclusion of fintechs within that specific context, right? When you were asking that specific question about illiteracy, it just reminded me of a partner fintech called Uniskip that's based in Ivory Coast, and that's been voted one of the best fintechs across the continent. And really what they do is they respond to that illiteracy, right? They realize that you have a lot of women who don't know how to read and write. And they've created their application in a way that you actually see the money, right? They have pictures of their currency, and women are able to then exchange, pay for services, ask for money, and even be lent to or even lend money to their fellow women through that specific application. I think the inclusion of technology is essential in reaching underserved communities.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so the next question goes to you, Pepita. So our African countries are growing day by day, developing and everything, but we still have so many societies with very backward mindsets. When it comes to such societies that believe a woman should not be empowered, should not know how to handle money, should not know how to be involved in, technology and all these kind of things, what do you have to say to them? Because I'm sure we still have many of such people in this country. What do you have to say to them when it comes to eradicating poverty and empowering women going through households and families and communities? Yeah.
Sure. First, I'll have a very capitalistic answer. That's 50% of your population. If you want to advance as a country, you need to include that 50% of your population. You cannot advance with just half of your population, right? You need to include them. I think the second part would be that you have to understand that in many ways, when women are empowered financially, they directly invest in their own household, whether it be in education, whether it be in health. And that really helps the outcome of a healthy household and therefore healthy children who are well educated and can participate effectively in the economies at hand, right? And then I think the second part, right, is when you empower women to be in positions of leadership and to be able to advocate for themselves, whether it be on the community level or on the state level, and in business, you again have access to someone who understands 50% of an entire market. You have access to someone who's willing to really educate not only themselves, but everyone around them when it comes to creating products, like Nelly was mentioning, creating products that target women, creating opportunities that target women, and then involving them and directly reinvesting within your economies. I think if you don't invest in women, then you won't get anywhere, I'm sorry to say. And I think you can see this in the history of Rwanda. It is very women-led, and that is why Rwanda is where it is today.
Great, thank you.
Can I add
Okay,
a little
so,
bit on that?
Nelly, would
okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's just a really fact from the UN that says, according to the UN, so basically increasing women's economic participation and leadership could add up to 12 trillion to the global GDP by 2025, right? So it's not just women's, war to fight this. It's everyone's energy and purpose to lift every woman and empower women, because it's everyone's benefit at the end of the day. Thank you.
Nashipai, do you have anything to add on to that
Yeah, definitely.
as a Kenyan?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So within all African contexts, I believe women definitely need to be empowered, and by doing so, then, and as I mentioned in my previous statement, the culture shift, whereby women are then empowered, makes them be able to trickle down that empowerment within their organizations to their fellow women counterparts as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I will now open the floor to the audience. Does anyone have any question to ask to our ladies over here? Hari ufite ikibazo ashaka kubaza? Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui... Okay. Yes. See, we have a question over there. Oh, a photo. Yeah, but there's someone behind you that is asking a question. But it's fine, you can go ahead and take the photo. Jackson, we have someone behind that has a question to ask, and I think you will come in next.
Okay, hi, my name is Lucy Wimaye. I'm from Business Development Fund, which is BDF. We are one of those institutions that work with people at the very bottom, because our clients are microfinances, small and medium businesses, individuals. Currently, we're about to launch a product called CDAT, which aim to target people in agribusiness, in agriculture. We are partnering with World Bank and Ministry of Agriculture. So at the end of BDF, we're trying to build a call for application system. So as a person who is in tech, I'm trying to see how I can develop something that would touch someone at the very bottom of the pyramid. Those are the people in agriculture. They make the biggest part in our sector in Rwanda, and we're trying to touch each and everyone, and we need to make sure that they'll be able to use that solution. However, like this product will be targeting mainly women and youth, but because we know there is that lack of digital literacy, we want to be able to really make sure that the product won't be the cause of them to not be able to apply. So the question goes like, how do you ensure that a digital solution does not go in the way of providing service to the target market, which is in this case probably women?
Sure.
Thank you. Who does your question go to?
Any of the lady can answer.
Who would like to answer that?
I'll take it, and then any of y'all can too. I think my answer would be to not reinvent the wheel, right? When Pesa Choice started looking at potentially lending to farmers, we wanted to understand exactly what was their technology at that time, right? And so we went in and talked to everyone, and we quickly realized that MTN had actually really well penetrated the market, right? And so you have USSD codes that they understand very well. And so it's maybe, yes, you can have your technology in the back end. And I think for us, we do in terms of the machine learning model being able to understand the creditworthiness of an individual, because a lot of SACCOs actually in Rwanda are digital as well, which is great. But when it comes to lending to the individual, it's bare bone minimum basic, right? It should be star 182 or one whatever USSD code you come up with, and then X amount of money. So they can request the money through USSD code. Mocash has done it as well. And then be able to receive that money. I think a lot of times not reinventing the wheel is maybe the best advice for a startup. because eventually you can then start having more and more conversations with those community and increase the digital literacy, because that is really essential. And I think women are the most affected by the lack of digital literacy, right? But in the beginning, bare bone. So that's my personal advice.
And if I can also just add to that, I think also providing proper capacity building to the rural women that you're trying to target is very important. So actually including them even within the product design from the, from the backbone of it, having them at the forefront of it would really support them into taking up that particular product.
Just one more thing to add on that. I would say that, first of all, that's a very good initiative, so good luck with that. But I would also like to add that sometimes we tend to also give a lot of things to these women, right? So you find like 4 different people or 4 different companies almost doing the same thing, and they're trying to provide like the same support to these women, right? But I'm glad that you're partnering with these people, but I'm sure even the local government of those women are trying to do something. So I would say find a way to support them, find a way to unite their energy, because they already have a way that they communicate these ideas to these women already. So I would say, which is what something Pepita did say as well, let's see how they're doing it, let's see how we can modify it to make it better and achieve better results. Yeah, thank you.
Are you satisfied with their answers?
Okay, good.
Okay,
if all doesn't work, come to Pesa Choice. We have a way we can.
Yes, you can go to Pesa Choice for some more answers. Okay, so Jackson, you have a question to ask? Can someone please pass the microphone to Jackson?
Hey, it's a race.
I know,
It's a mic
right?
race.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diana, and to our panelists. I'm worried this might be a revenge because I'm not seeing a gentleman on the panel. Is it a revenge?
We wouldn't want to call it
inclusion.
that.
It's inclusion? All right. Anyway, thank you so much for the discussion, for the points you're raising and the strategies to ensure women and men are included. Because even if we talk about women, we have figures that all men are not included, we know that, but we need to see why we still have some percentages below compared to men. Now, I don't want to ask any question because this concerns every one of us here. I just want to give some strategies on how we can strike a balance between women and men being included in the financial services, as well as embracing technology. Now, we need to ask a question as we are here. I think we need to dive deep. We are talking about inclusion, but what about management in these financial institutions? Just do a quick survey. For instance, we have 458 institutions in Rwanda that are fully licensed by the central bank. But how many women are in leadership position? How many women are in management? Before we talk about the Mwananchi down, how about the CEOs? How about the managers? How many do we have there? So that the clients that we want to join at least can board a leaf and say at least we have women in the positions of leadership and management. I think we need to start from there. Why? Why do we have low numbers is it because women do not go to school or they don't have background in finance and management? We need to start from there. Of course, I don't have research. Yesterday we were doing a quick survey just by a glance as we were preparing for this, but the numbers were completely low compared to our fellow men. Now, what I wanted to say here is I think, first of all, we need to look at the products that we design in these financial institutions. Do we design products that are tailored to a certain group or that are targeting a particular group? Products designed for women, products designed for youth, products designed for probably people with disability. Do we do that? So not until we come up, we do a scan and see some of the activities that women like doing, the areas they like to where they like to going, what they want to do on a daily basis. What are these products that we can design that will attract the attention of women, and then they come, they start accessing finance and then use finance. When you look at the statistics in Rwanda, probably using the Finiscope survey 2020, you'll find that we have accessed finance far, far above 93%. But when you go down to usage, again, you find the percentage is far, far below. And when it comes to the usage, women usage of financial services, again, far, far below. So we need to strike a balance and see we have the right products. I will give a very good example. I think we have some of our partners here, DSIK, former SBFIC. We designed one of the products called Tinyuka Wigire Munyarwandakazi. Now that is a product for women. By the numbers within like half a year, 6 months, the numbers were outstanding, far, far, far. Even up today, I think the manager, Kalambi Sako, Makiabela will bear witness. So we designed the product in partnership with DSIK, and now the numbers, even today, we still have very many women subscribing to that product. So I think we need to look at the product that we design and see whether they are targeting really the activities and the needs of women. Again, we have to look at the financial education and literacy. Yeah, of course, I will compare this with the numbers we have in village saving and lending groups. When you go to village saving and lending group, you have many women compared to formal service providers. And now we need to ask, why are they in groups than in any financial institution, any formal financial institution? Why? So we need to know why they want quick fix, and when we come to formal, then they don't want to go there. We need to know that, and that can only be obtained through a survey or any assessment and know the gaps, why they don't want to cross that line and join formal service providers. So we need financial education, we need to train them, we need to show them the benefits of acquiring a loan or using the products in the financial services. Last but not least is digitization of these financial institutions. We all know that women, the work they always have, how they hold the family, they do they are good at multitasking. We all know that men can bear witness. So in most cases, they are at home doing this and the other. So we need to come up with products, digital financial products that will not require a woman to move an inch to look for a service. So we need to design products that when a woman is in the kitchen, or is at the field, is in the garden doing this and the other, can just use a phone, click here and there, star, plus, plus, and then you access a service. You deposit, or you withdraw, or you check your balance. Now, that will indeed accelerate financial inclusion, but at the same time, increasing the number of women that join and use financial services. Probably that's what I wanted to add to what the panelists have said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackson, for your contribution. I see Dr. Ether over there. I think she has it's either she has a question or just 1 minute. I would like to ask our panelists if they have anything to add on to what Jackson has just talked about.
I do.
Okay.
You go ahead first.
Unfortunately, you're both ladies, so we can't say ladies first. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I definitely agree that we must address systemic barriers that inhibit women from having access to a career, to education, to opportunities within the financial sector first, right? So when people ask why aren't women there, it's why don't they have the education? Why is there a societal norm that inhibits them from going to school? Why is there the fact that many young girls, whenever they have their periods, have to drop out of school 1 week, every 1 week out of the month, right? You have to address systemic issues first. You cannot ask the why when you haven't addressed the issue from the get-go, from the bottom up. It can't be a top-down issue, it has to be a grassroots issue. It has to come from the bottom up. And I think when it comes to creating technologies that encompassate women, right, and that respond to women's needs, that will also come through when you are able to hire more women, and they're able to be there when you're running your war rooms and you're thinking of new ideas and you're throwing a new idea in the mix, right? Women will be able to advocate for themselves, right? If they're given the opportunities to have access to opportunities, to have access to education, and to be part of the table, I can guarantee you will have those specific technologies that you're asking for. And on top of that, it is also working with MFIs, with fintechs, and making sure that when they're hiring more women who are going to respond to these issues and who are going to also want to bring in their thought process. And I think in tech, when we're always, when you're designing a new product and you're thinking, you're doing the how do you call it? Sorry, I've been speaking French the whole day in my head, so languages are being mixed in. But when you're thinking of bringing a new product to the market and you're really sitting there with your team and you're thinking about the ins and outs, right? You are there for a good 2 days thinking about a new product. The fact that many of these products are designed by men won't respond to women's needs, simply. If there isn't a woman in that room to help you understand what they're going through, you will never have a product that responds to a need that a woman has, right? You need to include women from the get-go. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Nashpai?
Yeah. I agree with you, and thank you for sharing your insights on that as well. And as you rightfully mentioned, women do have a lot of time constraints. They're expected to be there, provide for their households from a nurturing perspective as well. So at the end of the day, I do believe that by them being empowered through everything that has been shared, then they will also, be more motivated to succeed in their businesses as well. So I think proper tools, proper financing needs to be provided to women. And at the end of the day, I think everyone in this room can agree with us that, women are really the backbone of society. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move forward to... you have something to say?
Real
Okay.
quick, yeah. I would like to thank Jackson for the remarks. Those were very good and constructive. And I would just like to say about the leadership, thing that he did mention, why we're really talking about, the people that are down there on the pyramid, but how about the top levels? We don't have that much representation as well, right? Which is something that we did mention in the beginning. But most of the time, I do find that it's related to a lot of people being saying that we need to promote more diversity and inclusion, but then again, it's easier said than done, right? We always come here to these big conferences and go back to the office, preach the same thing, but then there is nobody actually doing something to change that, right? We're just all saying we're advocating for that, we're doing this, but when it comes to action, we don't actually do that, right? But then again, I'm sure we have a lot of men leaders here, and I would say if we bring things like gender-sensitive policies in our workplaces, that, for example, is a good step, right? But then it's very easy to say than to do, right? And I think we're going to have a lot of other partners, not even just in this summit, but also in other summits. But the message to everyone is to be an ambassador for gender inclusion and sensitive policies for women, so that everyone can just move from just saying but actually doing and making an impact and changing things. Thank you.
All right. So, Dr. Ether, you have a question for our panelists here?
Okay, thank you. It's not a question really. Let me stand up. It'll be taboo for me not to speak on this subject when women are being spoken about. I want to give a comment on what Mr. Jack actually pointed out, if I heard him well, to say, why is that women want to be in their groups and not to come to the form of financial services? Mr. Jack, I always argue, don't remove us from those groups. This is who we are. Come in our groups and find a way to digitize and to make us feel comfortable. As women, we get confidence amongst each other. Unfortunately, as women, we have not been really privileged to be born confident. The boy child has been given for us. It takes a lot of push. it takes a lot of identity discussions around myself for me to be this confident and stand and be proud that I'm a woman. But when I see 2 of my colleagues, 2 of my friends in that group, I start feeling comfortable and start feel, oh, it's okay, by the way. So don't remove us from the groups. Give us the products that fit into our groups and let them address that aspect of moral support that we need each other. That's the other thing. And another second comment that I want to give is about the credit scoring, like my colleagues were saying. We are the service providers, you know. As a woman, like what she said, I'm waking up at 6 a.m., I'm preparing kids to go to school. Give two comparisons, a woman and a man who have a boutique in town today. I'm waking up, I have to make sure kids have gone to school, I have to make sure the home is clean. The time that I open my boutique is already 10 a.m. Now the kids are coming from school, I need to be home, I need to make sure that the home is well, and by the time everyone is back home, the food is prepared. I close my boutique at 3 p.m. And I've got my male counterpart who doesn't even take a bath. He just wears his trousers and goes to open his boutique. As early as 6 a.m. He's comfortable of closing that boutique as late as 10 p.m. And you expect to be comparing the same sales when doing your credit scoring between a woman and a male. That's not fair, guys. Let's look at these things differently. And let's give women the opportunity for them to be women. At the same time, to give them that right to access these products and to define these products in the manner and in the nature of the way that we are living as women. These are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Etho.
I think, Jackson, Dr. Etho just did your documentation for all the tech products you want to build, as we say. And really thank you for what you just said, right? Because when you're building a credit score algorithm, you need to really assess gender as well, right? And it needs to be something that is fully incorporated into your business and what you're trying to build, right? And I think the rise of data lending is really a good thing because you're able to assess people on their data. And one thing I was just talking to with my CEO, Davis, he was telling me how women over the age of 50 are the best people to lend to because when it comes to credit, not only are they gonna pay you back on time, they only request money when they truly need it, right? And so these are things that when you're using data, you're able to assess quicker and you're able to know exactly who you're going to lend more money to, right? And so with the rise of data, we now have much better understanding about all of that information.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the end of this conversation, but I think I'll give just one more person a chance to ask a question. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So it is important to empower the girl child early in their life such that when they grow up, they will be independent women which can contribute in both finance and business. As I see, tech is dominated finance in our 3 panelists. But this is probably a personal question which I would like to get some responses from them. So what is their contribution or maybe ideas by the panelists towards mentorship of the girl child towards digital as well as financial literacy? So I'd like to know from them, they have the experience, what have they done or what do they plan to do to empower the girl child in those areas?
Okay, who would like to go for that question?
Okay, so thank you so much for that. So again, within the context of the Fund for Rural Prosperity, as I mentioned with the portfolio of participants that we have supported, we've provided capacity building to over 3 million rural customers, of which 38% of them have been women. So I know that percentage may sound small at this particular point, but it is something that, of course, we are trying to build. And really encouraging women, especially in rural areas, to move from that societal norm, to get into the point of that culture shift whereby they are taking on these products. So as I mentioned, some of our portfolio of participants actually do sit with some of these rural customers to be able to identify what their needs are, to work with them, to be able to develop products that they will find beneficial. So providing that capacity building from a fund perspective is very key to us as well.
Thank you. I would like to go next on that. And I think did ask about what we're doing personally, right?
Mhm.
Is that correct? Personally, yeah. So I would say we're not really in a capacity to do a lot of things, but then again, I did mention a point where we're just really about telling people that they should do financial inclusion and gender, but what are we doing personally? And I would say that I have a department and it's 100% full of women, and I'm in charge of hiring those people. So I would say that's the first step, right? I am here to empower them, to tell them that they can do this, and I'm acting as a representation, but not. And making sure that we let's say promote gender-based, policies, sensitive policies that Dr. over there just mentioned, knowing that it's not easy for something that Pepita also mentioned, people miss school because of their periods. We can't be ashamed to say it here. So making sure that we represent these women, but also have some policies that are sensitive to just gender. I think that's something that can contribute to the overall growth of these norms.
Okay, so I'm last. So for me, I actually have a personal mission statement that I've written when I got my first job. And I'm going to read out my mission statement to kind of help you understand why I do what I do. So each day I work to achieve my purpose by challenging myself in ways that positively impact my path towards success, so that I may leave a legacy that inspires generation of young African women minds to live out their purpose. And so I don't take any job, I don't interact with anyone that does not fit within this specific mission statement that I have for myself. And so that started not only from me moving back home and working in Rwanda, because everyone knows that brain drain is a real issue across the continent. It is also being able to flex my muscle and speak up for young women. It is also volunteering and working with young women, whether it be in rural areas, whether it even be in schools here in Rwanda. It is also making sure that I am the best role model for young women, so that when they feel like they can't do something, I can tell them, listen, when I went in there, I didn't know anything, but I figured it out, right? And so for me, it's volunteering, it is working, and it is making sure that I fit my specific mission statement for myself.
Okay, so thank you so much, Pepita. Thank you so much, ladies, for your contribution and for everything that you have shared in regards to promoting and empowering women within the fields of technology and microfinance. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of our panel discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. I could see some of you passionately engaged in this conversation, so that was really wonderful to see. All right, so can we please clap for our panelists, Ms. Pepita Uwineza and Ms. Nashipai Latepan and Nelly Ragitare. Thank you so much, ladies. Okay, so I think we can now move forward to our next activity. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have a presentation from the founder and CEO of Collectix International Kenya. His name is Mr. Paul Mbugua. So may we please give him a round of applause as he walks up to the stage to give us his presentation.
I'll start by saying I'm not Paul Mbugua. My name is Jonah, Head of Business Development at Eclectics International. I'll request the media team if you can run the slides, please. All right, so I want us to try a small exercise. I'm sorry I'm confined in this space. I like moving around. So if I say Kigali, you clap once. All right? If I say microfinance, you clap twice. You're together. Kigali? Microfinance? Okay, that will happen somewhere in between the presentations. As I wait for the media team, kindly. Thank you. I believe everybody can see that. I'm here representing Eclectics International, and my name is Jonah. As I mentioned, I'm head of business development at the company. And today we'll be talking about driving financial inclusion through interoperability, and of course, just touching briefly on the digital transformation journey that we have been mentioning across different speakers. About Eclectics, we are a technology company. We are headquartered in Nairobi, but we do have regional offices in different markets. We have a very clear vision to be a trusted provider of quality and affordable digital solutions, and our mission is to simplify lives digitally. We are looking to make sure that the lives of you as the administrator of the different institution and also your customers, they can be able to have different simple lives, again, through access to different services. We believe that the future for Africa is now, and what we are trying and we are working on is to make sure that our solutions are very innovative and key. They are going to address the different unique challenges that we have in Africa, each and every market that we are operating in. We are market leaders in different fronts. The company has been in business for the last 15 years now. Right now, we are working with over 265 financial clients. We are also, again, one of the largest development houses in the region. We have over 237 developers internally. Again, PCI DSS compliance, talking about security, CMMI level 3, and of course, recognized partners by different industry big tech firms. This is basically the presence. Again, if your country is not on that list, maybe we need to have a discussion. Our solutions have been able to impact over 200 million customers. That is basically in Africa. And recently, we are rolling out a platform in Solomon Islands, that is east of Australia, basically targeting financial inclusion and services to the institution. This is just the 10-year capability statement. Again, our systems are very agile and very scalable. We can be able to provision solutions handling over 5,000 transactions per second, over 500 third-party integrations, again, through different fronts. I mentioned about 237 developers that we're working with. We are right now working in 28 countries, 27 in Africa as mentioned, and Solomon Islands. We also operating, again, 260 financial clients that we are working with currently. Quite a number of recognitions and accolades by different industry partners, the likes of Oracle, the likes of Red Hat, PCI DSS, Microsoft, and the likes. These are some of the clients, again, some of the institutions that will be very familiar to you. Dr. Ethel is here with the likes of Manimat. We have the likes of Faulu in Kenya. We do have the likes of KWFT in Kenya, working with our telecom, as I mentioned, Express Exchange. In Cameroon, we have the likes of Finca. Again, these are just a brief list on the microfinance and the circles that we are working with in the industry, the big tech, the banks, the likes of Cargill, again, provisioning financial inclusion through agriculture, and cocoa farming in Ivory Coast, and I'll be able to touch on that here shortly. Again, in Uganda, we have driven the first financial inclusive solution, targeting the digital shared platforms, again, being able to provision interoperability across the different institutions that we have in Uganda. Kigali. You already forgot. You already forgot. Microfinance. All right. So what is the strategy? We want to make sure that your institutions are going to maximize revenue. We also want to make sure that we are driving operational productivity and efficiency. And of course, at the end of it, we have to make sure that the customer is happy. So driving customer efficiency and also the product efficiency on a different level. Maybe, do we go banking or do we do banking? Do we go banking or do we do banking? We do bank, right? It's not something that I have to go and do. It's something actually I can be able to get done from whatever it is. So I want to make sure that we are in agreement in that space. And how we can be able to achieve that is basically being able to handle all these kind of payments. We are looking about B2C, the B2Bs, the peer-to-peer payments, the government-to-citizen payments, the citizen-to-government payments. And with all these, I'm trying to make sure that we have the data. There's a lot has been spoken about finance, a lot about women, but if we don't have the data and our institutions are not able to leverage on such data, then we just have an opinion. There's not much that we are actually doing. With Eclectics, we have been able to drive quite a number of solutions. Again, I'll not really dwell deep into this, but again, we are provisioning platforms that are working with the mobile wallets, again, targeting different closed user groups. We have done solutions around internet banking, your customer portals, integrations is one of our flagship products. Again, API management, including financial inclusion, open banking aspects, agency and also merchant banking, again, being able to provision financial services to your customers wherever they are. In whatever far-flung region they might be from your head office, again, we can be able to provision that. We have enterprise business suites, solutions that are targeting, again, your customer relationship management. Right now, we are pushing into BI. This is basically business intelligence and analytics to make you be able to make decisions faster. Your ERP solutions, and of course, social engagement. We want to make sure that at least your customers can be able to talk to you in real time. Social media. If you have an issue and you want to report something, I'll not actually call the institution, I'll go on Twitter, I'll go on Instagram and start making noise on there. And if you're not monitoring such channels, then you stand to lose. We also have comprehensive solutions, again, in the digital microfinance, having a cloud-hosted core banking system with all the peripheral channels available. Some unique solutions that are talking about your SMEs, agribusiness value chain automation. We are playing roles in invoice discounting, value chain. I mentioned about agribusiness, leasing, youth. We have talked a lot about women, but we have not talked about the youth. So how are we being able to provision those different platforms that address women and youth? And of course, we provision consultancy services across different platforms. Kigali, how much does it cost you to set up an institution? And as mentioned about data is very key. If you are rolling out a branch, we'll run you probably about 300,000 USD, and only about 13% of your customers are going to address and are going to actually be served through that branch. And all the way to the far end, where you have the internet banking, the mobile self-banking platforms, that actually 45% of your customers, and if you combine the last three, on the far right, you'll have actually roughly about over 70% of your customers doing transactions through those platforms. So that is the message I'm here to preach, and to tell you that agency and mobile transactions are growing all across the region, and we're also seeing a drastic decline in the number of customers that are coming to your branches, that are coming to your ATMs, if you're giving them different channels for them to be able to have access to different services. Right now, we might say we are in the second quadrant right here, where you're talking about the app markets. But again, you also need to be able to go to the distribution, to the aggregator model, demystify the current silos that we have from one institution to the other, and being able to aggregate the different services. Can I have a single application whereby my customers can be able to get anything that they need, be it that I'm employed, be it that I'm an SME, be it that I'm in agriculture, can I be able to get everything? And of course, going further to being giving solutions that are basically platform as a service. Digital lending, we cannot ignore this. Again, the trends are very clear that they are growing, and we have to be able to have solutions that are being able to handle that on a digital aspect. What's the opportunity? This is data that I have as of 2021, but I know, again, this might not have really changed very much. We have a population of about 1.3 billion in Africa, and already half of that is already utilizing mobile solutions, that they have access to mobile phones. What stops us from being able to give different services, again, on this population? The 50% that is already included in the basically mobile penetration. Internet coverage is still growing. The billion age. As I mentioned, again, what is it that we are doing about the youth? In most countries in the region, we know that from the age of 18, you can be able to hold an account legally. But what are we doing, again, for that age group? Urban population versus the rural population. Again, where are you supposed to be pushing your efforts? Is it that the 44% or is it the 56%? And again, as very well mentioned, women, female versus male. We have more ladies. So again, we have to do a lot of solutions that are actually crafted and basically designed to address the different challenges that women are facing. And how do you go to the opportunity? Again, 70% of this population is unbanked. What are we doing as microfinances and the different institutions that we have here to make sure at least we can give the bare minimum access to financial services to these institutions? And that can only be done digitally. Again, I mentioned over 70% of that have access to mobile phones. There's GSM and also internet connectivity. You can be able, again, the different microfinances, 40,000 of you in Africa, but we still don't have over just slightly above 30% financially included population. We need to do a little bit much more. Again, over 300 million that are served. A lot of engagements that you're having, again, they usually be manual or semi-operational. And we also, again, we want to say that software and hardware is very expensive, but we do have cloud. We have cloud-hosted solutions. We have software as a service, platform as a service, and the like. So what is the big challenge in the business that we need to address? And we are going to address that by provisioning unified shared platforms. That is basically being able to provision interoperability across the different financial institutions. How can you be able to leverage and actually synergize with the next institution on your side? Kigali, now you're alert. Thank you. On shared platforms, again, there are quite a number of parties that are involved, the different stakeholders, being able to make sure that your bank, your microfinance, the circle that have access to the customers, being able to, again, to give the customer convenience, affordability, and also accessibility to the different services that you provision. Regulators, again, the different frameworks that are required. Agency, can I be able to be served from where I am, my place of business, my place of operations, where basically my village, and also, again, being able to provision different aggregation services, billers, payment services, and all that through the different platforms. I'll not really delve deep on this. This is basically on the architecture, the IT people, what basically how this will look like, the different access platforms that the customers are really getting into. So basically, just that's a high-level architecture of how the platforms usually will look like. Single sign-on for all the different institutions that you have. This is a scenario what we have done in Uganda. Again, you can log in from any institution and you can be able to address the challenges of your customers. Again, I'll not really go into that. All our solutions are cloud-ready. We provision solutions that are around software as a service. We also provision platform as a service, again, hosted on any cloud, be it that you are leaded to AWS, you want to go with Microsoft, you want to go with local clouds. Again, all that is available within our solutions. Again, this is just a look and feel of the platform where you can be able to do, again, this is a core banking platform that can be able to have, again, additional services that you can be able to address. Some of the case studies, microfinance, Kigali. Good. Some of the case studies, what we found in Uganda is this. I don't know how many logos you can be able to see on that screen. It looks like if I ask you the color of that building, you might not be able to know, because everybody is trying to have visibility, right? And that's what we are doing as institutions. We want to compete and we want to have visibility on each and every space. This is another scenario in Kenya. Again, you're not sure which color of that building, which brand you need to be able to pick up. So even the customer sometimes will get confused. If you go to an agent point, these are scenarios that you find. Again, 20 devices, 20 different books, 20 different phones, you're not sure. Actually, even the agent himself is confused. And chances are, if you're not paying them enough commissions, they'll rather serve customers of the other institution instead of yours, because they're saying you're not paying enough. But anti-eclectics, again, we were able to go ahead and change the narrative. At least now you can tell the building is green, right? We have gone ahead now to demystify that and being able to provision now the shared agency banking platform. And these are all basically the banks that you have that are utilizing the platform. And actually any person can walk into that agent, can walk into that institution and be able to be served in real time. You don't lose your brand identity. Again, you still be able to be visible based on what we align on the branding aspects and the items. Shared activities, again, you can be able to do co-training, you can be able to do capacity building across the different aspects. Go-to-markets will be able to be joint. Again, you can note the different institutions that are involved in that opening and also activation aspects. This again in Kenya is a similar engagement that is happening. This now driven by different institutions in the market. Again, on all the platforms, you can be able to sign on. You can be able to do the different transactions that you have. This is courtesy of Dr. Ethel, again in Zambia. This is a platform that we have rolled out, in Zimbabwe, sorry. This is a platform we have rolled out in the market. We are with the likes of Finca in Uganda. Again, this is a platform that is up and running in that side. SMEP Microfinance in Kenya. We do have Cargill. Again, this is going further to the farmers. In Cargill, what we have done is we have rolled out a platform that is addressing farmers in the cocoa industry. And we are provisioning the full end-to-end value chain automation from the farming all the way to provisioning financial services to actually being able to give credit to the different farmers. Right now, we are working with over 1,200 cooperatives through the Cargill umbrella and being able to provision different services to the institution. These are just some of the look and feel of the platforms that we have in that market. Again, some additional case studies. This follow Microfinance, being awarded the best microfinance bank in Kenya. This courtesy of all these platforms that we have been able to roll out for them to address the different challenges and the different customer requirements that they have. I mentioned about SMEP, again, being awarded in the best microfinance in product innovation, again, courtesy of the system that we have rolled out. Kenya Police Sacco, one of the largest institutions in Kenya, again, rolled out quite a number of solutions in that industry, and of course, UN Sacco in the same breath. Kigali, I hope you're not bored with me. All right. So, what is digital transformation and how are we going to transform our institution? And I want to be very categorical that digital transformation is not digitization. And what is it that is going to make you transform? Is it that you fear missing out? And there's a lot that is happening and you just want to jump in the bandwagon? Or you're fearing that your competition will come and attack you and you'll be caught unawares? We have made different strides in different institutions to actually be able to make sure that you can be able to transfer your institution within a period of 1 year. That is 6 to 12 months. And of course, we have to make sure that we do a yardstick assessment. What is it and where are we right now? On what is that we need to do to go to the next level? Then of course, just as you go to a doctor, you'll get to know what's wrong with you. Then we'll prescribe some medication. And then we'll roll out the different solutions that are required for you to be able to get to where we need. And of course, from there, it's an impact analysis and impact monitoring. What is the impact of whatever we have chosen to transform to and what is happening? What are the key challenges? Again, you'll keep on saying that technology is expensive. They will keep on saying our vendors are expensive. But again, we have different models to make sure that we can work with you and we can work with the budgets that you have. Regulators, sometimes they can be very hard. They can be very complicated. Yeah, all of you are scared of data security and protection. Again, cyber security aspects will address all that. Reliable infrastructure, be it that we have electricity, do we have internet connectivity, poor product market match. You roll out a product that you have not done research on. You're not sure if it's going to fit. Is it that you're targeting women? Are we targeting the youth? Are we targeting SMEs? And are those products ready for your market? And of course, again, we had the issues with the pandemic. What is digital transformation? Instead of defining what digital transformation is, I'll define what it's not, and it's not automation. Picking up a standard process that you have, a site inform, putting it online, you're not transforming, you're just automating. Transformation is the likes of Uber. I don't know how many of you have used Yego since you have been in Rwanda, and not the standard cabs. I don't know how many of you have booked your hotel rooms from Airbnb. I don't know how many of you have utilized M-Pesa. At least all Kenyans are proud of M-Pesa and the MTN monies. That is digital transformation. And it's basically saying it's a new business model and actually offering a different value proposition. And what are the barriers? Again, systems. We can be able to have very legacy systems that cannot be able to address whatever we are looking at. The organization structure, again, you might not be very easy for you to make such decisions to progress. Collaboration among the different units, the skill sets, and of course, the agility that you require in the ICT space. And what we need to transform again is infrastructure. Again, are we looking at cloud? Are we looking at AI? Are we looking at machine learning and all that? Customer experience, whatever we are rolling out, is it addressing the customer needs and what we need to achieve? Operational excellence. Are we able to change and basically learn and relearn how we do our things? Rapid innovation, process reengineering, doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. I think only fools can be able to do that. So we have to change how we do our things and re-engineer the different processes in a digital way. And of course, make sure that we reskill our employees. And of course, the different building blocks, we need to make sure that we have the operational backbone, we have the digital platforms in place which is what Eclectics is offering. Of course, external developer platforms, that is Eclectics that is offering, being able to give you the different insights that customers are saying, and of course, provisioning and accountability framework. And of course, the journey is not very short and is not very easy, all the way from the readiness aspect, from a point of confusion, all the way to being able to go to a point of clarity. Again, there are different steps that you have to jump through. I believe you can be able to pick that on your side. And what is the IT journey? The digital transformation journey. I believe none of us right now is still operating in stage 1. Or there's somebody who does not have a core banking system, basically they run on Excel, spreadsheets and all that. Of course, the second stage is to make sure that you have some sort of a core banking system or some sort of an ERP where you can be able to manage your different data sets. The third stage is where most of us are operating on, at least the different applications, the mobile wallets, social media banking, again, self-service portals, document management, aspects with the customer relationship management, how do we engage with our different customers, and of course, shared platforms, being able to get more value in a nutshell. And of course, now the next level, we need to make sure that the data we have collected at stage 3, we can be able to utilize it correctly. And that is, again, aspect with business intelligence. Data security, we are addressing cybersecurity, and of course, cloud aspects. And the next level now, we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about cryptocurrency, we start talking about blockchain, we start talking about ChatGPT, we start talking about AI, all those aspects that we are doing. Microfinance, Kigali, some of you had forgotten, huh? So, cybersecurity, all that I mentioned is all digital and it's all good. But if you don't put the right measures and the right security aspects within your institution, then you stand to lose drastically, because there are different aspects, and each and every person that actually, the minute you roll out a new platform, you expect actually different hackers and different non-wanted attention that will come on your side. Of course, we make sure that we address all the cybersecurity issues, aspect to do with the provisioning of VAPT. We also provision managed services. Again, that can be available through the different cloud platforms that we're running on, your AWSs. Digital forensics, ensuring that you have a proper ICT governance within your institution. Data security, again, this is physical data, who has access to the data center, who has access to the different servers, and of course, making sure that you have a comprehensive corporate and also customer training, again, for what kind of data can I be able to give out to the different institution. Why do you need to partner with Eclectics International? We provision innovative ICT solutions to address the different needs of your different customer segments. And also we'll make sure that the change management is very seamless and very painless, and as soon as possible for you to be able to get value. And lastly, we are there to get a number of international industry best practices, and we keep on making sure that innovate. We do have a stand right outside. Feel free to reach out or swing by for any further information. You can feel free to pick up that contact or that email and be engaged with me. We can be able to talk further. We're still around between today and tomorrow for any further discussions. Thank you so much, and much appreciated. I don't know if you are doing Q&A. Yes. Okay. All right. Kigali. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. So John is asking if there's any questions you would like to ask him in regards to his presentation. Looks like there are no questions. Anyway, thank you so much, John, and I apologize to you for calling you a wrong name that was written on the paper. Sorry for that. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, John's presentation brings us to the end of today's event. What an incredible day this has been. So I just want to thank you all for your participation and your enthusiasm and patience and just basically making this event a success.